The first thing I want to say, before anything else, is that I almost called in sick that day. I had a headache, not a bad one, just the kind that sits behind your left eye and makes the fluorescent lights annoying. I took 2 ibuprofen at home, thought about calling Darlene at the main office and saying I was under the weather, and then didn't because I had 3 units on the inspection schedule that had been delinquent for over a month, and the property management company had been on me about getting them documented. So I drove in. I made a thermos of bad coffee, the cheap stuff from the corner store because I'd run out of the good kind, and I drove into Store Safe Solutions on Wentworth Industrial Road at 7:42 in the morning, and by 9:15, the world had ended outside, and I was still inside. That's the short version. The long version is everything that happened after. My name's Cal Marsh, Calvin, technically, but nobody's called me that since my mother, when I was in trouble as a kid. I'm 43 years old. I've been a maintenance supervisor at storage facilities for going on 11 years, the last 4 of them at Store Safe on Wentworth, which is one of those big ones, not the biggest in the county, but substantial. 214 units, across 3 climate-controlled buildings and 1 outdoor section. Loading docks on the south side, a property office attached to the north building, a security control room that most of the tenants don't know exists because it's tucked behind the receiving area and looks like a janitor's closet from the outside. That closet saved my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The facility sits at the edge of what used to be an industrial district on the south end of the city. Wentworth Road runs east-west, and if you head east for about 1.5 miles, you hit Route 9, which goes north into the suburbs and south down toward the county highway. West of us is a cluster of light manufacturing buildings, a plastics company, a packaging distributor, a place that made custom foam inserts for shipping fragile stuff, and a regional grocery warehouse that was about 400 yards from our west fence. That warehouse is going to matter later, a lot. To the north of the facility is a strip of chain-link fence, and then a neighborhood, residential, working class, the kind of streets with a lot of cars parked in front yards and a Dollar General on every corner. To the south is more industrial nothing, some rail lines, and eventually the river. I'm telling you the geography because it matters. Every decision I made in the days that followed was built on knowing exactly where I was in relation to everything else. If I hadn't known this area as well as I did, if I'd been a newer guy or someone who'd worked the property for 6 months instead of 4 years, I think I would have made worse choices and probably died inside one of those buildings. Probably inside Building B, which smells like old carpet and the particular sad smell of things people put in storage because they can't deal with them emotionally, but also can't throw them away. Anyway, in 42, I park my truck in the employee lot behind the north building and sit there for a second finishing the coffee from the thermos. My phone shows 3 emails from the property management company, all from the same VP whose name I won't bother with, all about the delinquent unit inspection report that was due 2 weeks ago. I had done the inspections. I just hadn't written them up yet, because writing things up is the part of the job I'm bad at. I get out of the truck. The morning is gray and cold. It's late October, and the sky has that flat gray color that means it'll stay exactly like this all day. No rain, no sun, just nothing. I can smell the plastics company already. They run something through their process that puts out a faintly sweet chemical smell that drifts east on certain mornings and just hangs over the facility. You stop noticing it after a while, but today I noticed it because of the headache. I go inside through the employee entrance with my key card, check the overnight security log, nothing unusual. 1 motion alert in Building C that was almost certainly a mouse, and sit down at the little desk in the receiving area to plan my morning. The inspection list. Unit 34 in Building A, delinquent 60 days. Unit 67 in Building B, delinquent 45 days. Unit 114 in Building B, delinquent 90 days. This last one had been flagged twice before, and both times when we'd attempted to contact the tenant, a man named Gordon Alcott, no relation to anyone I know. We got no response. His credit card had been charged successfully each month, which was why corporate hadn't pushed harder on it. But the inspection protocol required a walkthrough if a unit went 90 days without the tenant accessing it, and 90 days was exactly what we were at. I figure I'll do 114 last because it's the most complicated. Start with 34 and 67. Get those documented, then deal with the mystery unit. That decision, doing 114 last, is the reason I was in Building B when everything happened. I spend about 40 minutes on Units 34 and 67. Both are in reasonable shape. Unit 34 belongs to a woman who apparently collects antique furniture and is running out of room in her house. The unit is packed floor to ceiling with chairs, side tables, a headboard. Nothing wrong, nothing alarming, just a lot of old wood. Unit 67 is owned by a small business that stores overflow inventory. Boxes of whatever they sell. I couldn't tell from a glance. Something to do with plumbing supplies. Both inspections take maybe 10 minutes each, and the rest of the time is me writing them up on the tablet while standing in the aisle. By 8:50, I'm in Building B, walking the corridor toward Unit 114 at the far end. The building has this particular quiet to it that I'd never quite gotten used to, even after 4 years. It's not silent. There's always the low hum of the climate control system running through the ceiling, and sometimes you hear the sounds of the exterior world muffled through the corrugated steel walls. A truck going by on Wentworth, the distant percussion of something at the plastics company. But it's a deadened quiet, like the air itself is thick. Rows of orange roll-up doors on both sides of the corridor, most of them padlocked. The fluorescent lights overhead, every fourth one slightly yellowish instead of white, because they're older bulbs that nobody bothered replacing. I get to Unit 114. The roll-up door is padlocked, same as the others. There's a yellow delinquent notice taped to it from 6 weeks ago, starting to peel at one corner. I have the master key set on my belt. This is one of the specific advantages of being the maintenance supervisor, having the keys that bypass tenant padlocks for exactly this purpose. I take out the override key for Building B, open the lock cylinder on the side panel, and roll up the door. What I'm expecting, more furniture or boxes, or maybe the smell of something that went bad because whoever rented this unit left food in it, which is against the rental agreement but happens more than you'd think. What I get, none of those things. Unit 114 is 12 feet wide and 20 feet deep, same as all the Building B units, and it is full of things that make absolutely no sense in a storage facility. The first thing I see is shelving, not the cheap metal shelving people build in their garages, but proper industrial racking, bolted to the floor. On the shelves, sealed 5-gallon water containers, maybe 40 of them, stacked in rows. Cases of food, not canned goods scattered around, but actual organized cases of freeze-dried food, with labels like Mountain House and Augustin Farms, and emergency calorie bars wrapped in foil. There's a clear plastic bin labeled Medical, with a padlock on it. On the left wall, more shelving with sealed ammunition cans. I'm not a gun person, but I know what those look like. And beside them, in a locked rifle case, the outline of something long. A sleeping bag rolled up and bungee corded to the shelf frame. A hand crank radio. A compact air filter unit still in its box. A solar charging panel folded up like a briefcase. Someone had built a bug-out room inside a storage unit. I stand in the doorway for maybe 20 seconds just looking at it. Then I check the delinquent notice on the door again. 90 days since Gordon Alcott had last accessed this unit. I look at the rental agreement on my tablet. He'd been a tenant for 2 years, 1 month. He'd signed up for auto pay. He had a phone number that went to voicemail when we called, and an address that turned out to be a P.O. box when my colleague Darlene had tried to mail the delinquency notice. Gordon Alcott had set this up very deliberately, paid for it consistently for 2 years, and then stopped coming. I'm standing there thinking about what the professional thing to do is. Document it, photograph it, probably call corporate, maybe call the police to check on the guy. When I hear something at the far end of the building corridor behind me, I turn around. There's a woman standing at the corridor entrance. She's maybe 60, wearing a blue fleece jacket, and she has a unit key in her hand. She's one of the tenants. I've seen her before. I just can't place her name immediately. She comes in occasionally to access her unit, but right now she's not looking at her unit. She's looking past me, and her face has the expression of someone who just saw something in a nature documentary that they wish they hadn't. "There's a man," she says. At the door. The entrance. I walk toward her. What man? The entrance is keycard access. He looked wrong. She shakes her head. Like he was hurt. He was trying to get through the door, and then the door. I think the door locked. Did it lock? Did something lock? This is when I notice that the corridor is darker than it should be. The red light above the emergency exit at the far end, which is normally off, is on. It's cycling slowly. I know what that light means. The facility has a security lockdown protocol. It's meant for emergencies, theft in progress, fire, or a specific trigger code entered at the security office or remotely by the property management company. When it activates, it does several things simultaneously. All external doors lock and can only be opened with an override code. The roll-down security gates at the loading docks drop. The camera system goes to a continuous record mode, and the red emergency lights come on in the corridors. The protocol was installed about 3 years ago, after a break-in at a facility in the same company's network. In 4 years, I'd done one test drill with it. I'd never seen it activate on its own. "Come with me," I say to the woman. "What's happening?" "I don't know yet. Come with me, please." I'm walking toward the security office before I finish the sentence. She follows me, which I'm grateful for, because at that moment, all I know is that I want to be in front of a screen that shows me what's happening outside. Her name, I remember as we walk, is Donna Holt. She rents Unit 82 in Building B. I think she has furniture in there, and some boxes of things that belong to her late husband. She mentioned him once, casually, when she was signing a paper at the office window. She's asking me something, but I'm not really listening. I'm moving fast. The security office is about 60 feet from the Building B entrance, through a connecting corridor and past the receiving area. It's a small room, 10 feet by 8 feet, roughly, with a desk, a wheeled chair, a monitor bank showing feeds from 22 cameras, a landline phone, a radio handset for intercom communication throughout the facility, and a locked metal cabinet on the wall that holds override codes, master keys, and the system manuals. I've spent maybe a cumulative total of 12 hours in this room in 4 years, mostly for the test drill, and a couple of times when someone thought they'd spotted a break-in, and it turned out to be raccoons. I sit down at the monitor bank. Donna stands in the doorway. I start cycling through the camera feeds. Outside cameras first. The parking lot in front of the main office entrance. 3 cars parked there, including what I think is Donna's sedan. Beyond the cars, the street. I can see a section of Wentworth Road from this camera. There's a truck stopped in the middle of the lane. Not pulled over, just stopped. Driver's door open. A person on the sidewalk moving in a way that doesn't make sense. Not walking normally. More like they're listing sideways as they move. Their head at a wrong angle. A second person near the truck, bending over something on the ground that I can't quite make out. I switch to the south camera, loading dock view. The roll-down security gate is down, which it should be, lockdown protocol activated. Beyond the gate, through the gap at the bottom, I can see the service road, and then the back of the plastics company's building. Nothing moving there yet. East camera, the section of Route 9 that's barely visible at the end of the road. There's smoke. Not a lot, but it's there. A thin column of it rising from somewhere past the intersection, and I watch it for a second, and then go back to the front camera, because something is wrong. The person who was moving sideways on the sidewalk is now at the facility fence. The fence is chain link, 8 feet tall, topped with a single strand of barbed wire. They're against it, hands through the links, face against the fence. Just standing there against it, pressing. I check the time at the bottom of the monitor screen. 9:07 a.m. Something's happening outside, I say. Not to Donna specifically, just out loud, because sometimes saying the obvious thing helps you think past it. "I know," Donna says from the doorway. When I was driving in, on the radio, they were saying something about attacks. I thought it was a crime thing, but the man at the door, I repeat, what did he look like? He had blood on him, his neck. He was trying to get through the glass door, and he was making this sound. "Did he see you?" "Yes." She pauses. "I think so." He turned toward me. That's when the door locked. I look at her. He turned toward you when he heard you, or when he saw you. She thinks about this. I'm not sure. Both, maybe. I nod. I don't say anything else for a moment. I'm switching through cameras, looking for the source of the lockdown trigger. The security system has a motion sensor at the main entrance that's tied into the lockdown protocol for exactly the scenario Donna just described. Someone trying to force through the glass entry door trips a sensor, and if the motion reading is sustained for more than 30 seconds, the lockdown initiates automatically. I find the front entrance camera. The man Donna saw is still there, at the door. He's got his hands flat against the glass and he's pushing. Not pulling, not trying to use the handle, just pushing against the glass like he doesn't understand that it opens the other way. He has blood on his collar and on the left side of his face, and his eyes are open but unfocused in a way I can't quite articulate. Just wrong. Like the lights are on, but the wiring has gone out. He's making a low sound. I can't hear it through the camera, but I can see his jaw moving. He's not going to get through that door. The glass in those entry doors is tempered safety glass in a steel frame, and the lock is a commercial-grade deadbolt that can only be opened with an override code from inside. He's not getting through that, unless more of them come and they figure out to try the windows. But looking at this one, looking at the way he's pushing at a door that opens by pulling, I don't think figuring anything out is something he's capable of anymore. The phone on the desk has a dial tone when I pick it up. I try 911. It rings 11 times, and then a recording says, "All circuits are busy, and please try again." I hang up. I try the property management company's main line. It rings 4 times, and then goes to voicemail, which is unusual at 9 in the morning, when they should be well into business hours. I leave a message that I'm sure no one is ever going to hear. Facility on security lockdown. Attempting to assess situation. Advise when possible. I put the phone down. "Okay," I say. "So we're locked in." Donna doesn't say anything for a moment. Then, "For how long?" "I don't know." "Can you open the door? From in here?" "Yes, I have the override code. But right now I'm not going to open any exterior doors." I turn to look at her. "You understand why?" She looks at the monitor showing the man at the entrance. "Yes," she says. "I understand." That's the thing about Donna. She's not hysterical. She doesn't panic, at least not visibly. She's one of those older women who seems to have done so many hard things in her life that a brand new hard thing just gets folded in with the others. I don't know this about her yet, not on day one, but I come to understand it over the following weeks, and I'm more grateful for it than I can say. What I don't know at this point, sitting in the security office at 9:07 a.m., on a gray October morning, with a mild headache and a cold thermos of bad coffee, is that there are 4 other people in this facility. I'm about to find out. The intercom system is one of those things that exists at every storage facility I've ever worked at, and gets used approximately never. It's meant for staff to communicate across the buildings without walking, or to make general announcements. The facility will be closing in 15 minutes. That kind of thing. There's a handset in the security office and speakers in all 3 buildings at the corridor intersections. I'd used it once in 4 years, during a drill, and the speakers had produced a feedback whine that lasted 3 seconds before settling into something audible. I pick up the handset and press the button for all facility broadcast. "Attention, this is Cal Marsh, the maintenance supervisor. If anyone is inside the facility right now, I need you to respond to this message. Please go to the nearest intercom call station. They're the white boxes mounted on the wall at each corridor junction, and press the call button. If you're not sure where one is, stay where you are and I'll come find you. The building is on security lockdown. Do not attempt to open any exterior doors or the loading dock gates. I repeat, do not open any exterior doors." I release the button. Donna looks at me. "There are call stations?" she says. "Yeah. Most people don't know about them." 20 seconds pass. Then the intercom clicks. A male voice. Youngish, slightly out of breath. Hello? Is this working? I'm in Building A. Near the end, I think it's the D row. I heard something outside, and then all the doors locked, and I've been trying to call out, but my phone isn't going through to anything. I press the button. Building A, D row. I hear you. What's your name? Brett Kowalski. I rent unit A112. I was here dropping off some tools. Okay, Brett. Stay where you are. Is anyone with you? No, just me. Okay, sit tight. Another click. A different voice. Older, quieter. A male voice that I immediately can't quite read the tone of. I'm in Building C, Unit 209. I came in early this morning. My name is Frank Delacroix. Frank, I hear you. Same instructions. Stay put for now. I'll come to you. A third click. I almost dropped the handset. It's a kid's voice. Or close to it. 17, maybe 18. The kind of voice that's done cracking but still hasn't settled into itself yet. Yeah, hi, I'm in Building B. The B wing? All the way at the back. I got the last unit before the emergency exit. I'm not supposed to be here. I pressed the button. What do you mean you're not supposed to be there? A pause. I'm using the unit as a practice space. For drums. My mom doesn't know. Another pause. I'm Tyler Renfrew. I sit back. A retired woman, a construction type with tools, a quiet man in Building C, and a 17-year-old drummer hiding his hobby from his mom. Tyler, I say, how long have you been in there? Since like 7. I came in before you even got here. I have my own key to the unit. The guy who rents it, he lets me use it. Okay? Is there a drum kit in there? Yeah. Don't play it. Oh, yeah, obviously. Sorry. I set down the handset and look at Donna, who is now sitting in the second chair against the wall. 4 people besides me, I say, including a teenager. Could be worse, she says. She's right. It could be. I take a breath and start thinking about what I need to do in what order. First, assess exits and entry points. Second, locate the other 4 people and get them to a central position. Third, figure out the supply situation. Fourth, understand what is happening outside. I know how to approach the first 3 of those. The 4th one is going to take longer. I leave Donna in the security office with instructions to watch the camera monitors and press the intercom button if she sees anything change, inside or outside. I give her a quick tutorial on which cameras show which areas, and she listens carefully and asks 1 or 2 smart questions. Then I take my master keyring, my tablet, a flashlight, and a box cutter from the maintenance supply cabinet next to the desk, and I go to collect my people. I get Tyler first because he's in Building B, and I'm already here. His unit is Unit B219, the last one before the east emergency exit. The door is cracked open about 2 inches, and I can see a sliver of drum kit through the gap, a kick drum with a homemade foam pad on the head to dampen the sound, 2 tom drums, a snare with a cloth draped over it. The kid has actually put a lot of thought into making this work without being noisy. There's a small space heater plugged into the unit's electrical outlet. The Building B units have outlets, which is part of the climate control package. There's a plastic crate with a few water bottles and a bag of chips on it, and a portable speaker connected to a phone by a cable. Tyler is sitting on a fold-up stool in the corner, hunched over his phone. He's lanky, maybe 5'10", wearing a hoodie with a band name I don't recognize on it. Brown hair, kind of messy. He looks up when I push the door open, and his expression does this rapid sequence of things. Relieved, then embarrassed, then relieved again. "Mr. Marsh?" he says. "Yeah, you know my name? You came around once when I was here. Last summer. You saw me, but didn't say anything. I think about this. I remember that. A kid in a storage unit with a drum kit in August. I had noted it and then, I don't know, I had other things to deal with, and he wasn't hurting anything, and I forgot about it. Yeah, I say. Okay, grab your stuff." "My stuff?" "Whatever you want to keep. The space heater. Bring that. Water bottles. Anything food-related. We're going to a central location." He starts packing quickly. I notice he takes the space heater, the water bottles, the chips, and his phone charger. He leaves the drum kit. Smart kid. "What's happening?" he says as we walk. "I'm still figuring that out. My phone isn't getting signal. Mine too. I tried looking at the news, but nothing's loading. He pauses. I saw. Through the gap in the emergency exit, there's a gap at the bottom, like 2 inches. I saw feet. Going past. Someone's feet. And they were walking funny. Walking how? Like one foot was dragging. Like they weren't paying attention to how they were walking. I think about the man at the front entrance. The way he'd been pressing flat-handed against the glass. Yeah, I say. Okay. We pick up Brett in Building A. He's a big guy, early 30s, solid, wearing a Carhartt jacket with a torn pocket. His unit is open, and inside, I can see a collection of professional tools, a toolbox on wheels, a table saw, a generator in a cardboard box, various other equipment. He's been renting this unit for his construction business, keeping equipment here between jobs. He shakes my hand when I introduce myself, and his grip is very firm and businesslike, the handshake of someone who defaults to confidence. But his eyes are nervous. "What's going on out there?" he says. I'm not sure yet. I heard something. Before the lockdown, a sound outside. He pauses, like a lot of people making noise. We'll look at the cameras together. Come on. I look at the contents of his unit. Bring your tools. Anything that might be useful. He looks at me for a moment, reading something in my face, and then he starts grabbing things. The toolbox, a pry bar, a heavy rubber mallet. He doesn't ask why. Frank Delacroix in Building C is the one who makes my neck do something. Not my actual neck, just the sensation in the back of it when something about a person or a situation doesn't line up right. He's maybe 52, 55, wearing clean clothes that seem a little too put together for a storage facility visit. A button-down shirt, slacks, dress shoes. His hair is neat. He has a leather bag over one shoulder. His unit, when I walk past it, is padlocked with his own lock, even though I can hear the lockdown alert cycling through Building C. He's standing in the corridor, waiting for me when I arrive, which means he heard me coming, which means he was paying attention. "Mr. Marsh," he says. He has my name from the intercom. "Frank, good to meet you. What are we dealing with?" "Not sure yet. I'd like everyone in the same place so I can give a full picture when I have one." "Of course." He falls into step beside me easily, without any argument, without asking more questions. That should be reassuring, someone who doesn't make demands. But something about how smoothly he accepts it makes me feel the opposite. I don't know why yet. I file it. We get everyone into the security office. It's crowded, 5 people in a 10-by-8 room, but it's the right room to be in because of the cameras. I position myself at the monitor bank and let everyone else sort out where to stand or sit. Brett finds a spot leaning against the wall. Tyler sits cross-legged on the floor and immediately starts looking at his phone again. Donna is in the chair she was already in. Frank stands near the door with his leather bag over his shoulder, watching the monitors. I cycle through the camera feeds again, and this time I do it slowly, and I explain what I'm seeing out loud because these people deserve to know. Front entrance. The man at the door is still there. There's a second person with him now, standing behind him, also against the glass. This one is a woman, or was. Her hair is matted, and her hands are at her sides, not pressed to the door like his, and she's making the same kind of aimless movement, not going anywhere, not doing anything purposeful, just present. Both of them seem to react when I move the camera, which means they're sensitive to motion inside, or at least to light changes, but neither of them tries to do anything strategic about it. They just press harder. Wentworth Road, visible from the north side camera. There's more activity. At least 6 figures visible in the half block I can see, moving in different directions. One group of 3 is clustered around a car that's up on the curb with its engine running, the exhaust visible as a little white cloud in the cold air. None of them seem to be doing anything to the car. They're just near it because of the noise it's making. "Those things out there," Brett says, watching the monitor. "Those are people." "They were," I say. "Infected? That's what it looks like." "Like a disease. That's what it acts like." I switch to the east camera. The smoke from the direction of Route 9 is thicker now. A proper column of it rising and bending southeast in the wind. Zombie, for lack of a better word. I know how that sounds. Nobody laughs. Nobody says anything about how that sounds. I think that tells me something about how fast the human brain adjusts to reality when the alternative is denial. Are we safe in here? Donna asks. Right now, yes. The exterior doors are tempered glass in steel frames, and the loading dock gates are solid steel roll-downs. The chain link fencing around the perimeter is 8 feet. The things outside, they're following sound and movement, not thinking their way through obstacles. I pause. They can't open a door. They can't climb a fence. They'll press on things they can see movement through, but they can't figure out that pulling opens something that won't push. So as long as we stay quiet and don't open anything external, we're physically secure. For how long? Brett says. That depends on food, water, and whether the power stays on. I watch them absorb this. Tyler stops looking at his phone. What's the power situation? Frank says. The facility runs on grid power normally. If the grid goes down, there's a backup generator in the utility room behind Building A. It's a diesel unit. Last time I checked the fuel level, about 2 months ago, it was around half a tank, which is 125 gallons. At the load this facility runs, that would give us maybe 3 to 4 days of full power. If we cut it down to essential systems, security cameras, climate control at reduced setting, the intercom, maybe a week. And after that? After that, we figure something out. There's a silence in the small room. The camera feeds cycle on the monitors. Outside, one of the figures on Wentworth Road has stopped moving and is standing still, facing the facility fence, swaying slightly. Just standing and swaying. Okay, Tyler says from the floor, very quietly, more to himself than anyone. Okay. The first full day is mostly information gathering. I know this facility better than any place I've ever worked. I know which units have functional outlets and which don't. I know which corridor sections have been repainted and which still have the original paint from the 80s. I know the entire HVAC system, the ducts, the dampers, the individual air handlers for each building, because I've repaired or replaced parts of all of them at some point. I know where the water shutoff valves are, and the electrical panels for each building, and the location of every fire extinguisher, and the spots in the roof over Building C that I've been meaning to reseal for 2 years. This knowledge is not exciting. It's never been exciting. It's the knowledge that makes me employable and also makes me slightly boring at dinner parties. Right now, it's the most valuable thing I own. I do a methodical walk of the facility, starting with the perimeter. Every exterior door, every window. The facility doesn't have many traditional windows, mostly high ventilation louvers that are fixed and too small to matter. Every loading dock gate. I check each one against the lockdown status and make sure every closure is solid. The main entrance glass doors are holding. The 2 fire exit doors in Building B and 1 in Building A are steel-clad, designed to be pushed open from inside in an emergency, but not pulled from outside. The loading dock has 3 berths, each with a steel roll-down gate. All 3 are down. I go to the loading dock and check them from the inside. Solid, all the way to the ground, the bottom edge seated properly on the concrete. There's about a half-inch gap on one of them, Gate 2, at the floor on the left side. Not enough to be a meaningful entry point for anything larger than a rat, but I make a note of it. Then I go back and start doing something I've never done before in 4 years on this property. I start going through the units. Not all of them. I'm not insane, and I don't have infinite time. And I do have something called a respect for property even in an emergency. What I do is start with the units I already have some information about, the ones that showed up on the access log recently, the ones I documented in inspections, the ones whose tenants I know by face. And I use the property database on my tablet, which still has its battery and works fine without a network connection because it's a local app, to sort units by recent activity. The idea is simple. Find food, water, and useful supplies without having to break into every unit in a 214-unit facility. Work systematically. Think about what's most likely to be where. First priority, the staff kitchen area in the main office building. Small, but it has a mini fridge, a pantry cabinet, and a vending machine. I break the vending machine lock with a screwdriver. I know exactly which kind of screwdriver works because I've had to rekey these machines before. And inventory what's inside. 16 bags of chips, 11 chocolate bars, 8 packs of crackers, 4 granola bars, 3 bags of peanut butter crackers. From the pantry cabinet, 1 large container of instant coffee, a box of tea bags, some sugar packets, 2 cans of soup, a box of crackers, some condiment packets. The mini fridge has 2 sandwiches someone had left there. Staff from the office side who hadn't come in today, or maybe had been home already when the lockdown hit. The sandwiches would be good for another day. After that, I shouldn't trust them. Not a lot of food. Enough for maybe 2 days at strict rationing for 5 people. Then there's Unit 114. I don't touch it immediately. I go back to the security office and tell everyone what I found, and frame it as a question. The unit belongs to a tenant. There are supplies in it that could help us, but it's someone's property. What do we do? Donna says, very practically, if he's out there, he's not coming back for it. And if he's not out there, same thing. Brett says, we have no idea who he is. For all we know, he's a prepper nutcase, and half of what's in there is booby-trapped. I think about the organized shelves and the locked medical bin. It's not booby-trapped, I say. It's very deliberately organized. This person thought hard about what they'd need and how to store it. Frank says nothing. He's sitting against the wall with his leather bag on his lap, watching the camera monitors, and he hasn't spoken in about 20 minutes. I vote yes, Tyler says. Obviously yes. We need the food. We use the supplies. I document everything we take, which might seem unnecessary but feels right to me. A record of what we used and why, in case Gordon Alcott shows up and wants to know what happened to his survival cash. It seems unlikely, but I document it anyway. What we get from Unit 114 is extraordinary. The food situation changes completely. I count and log 60 cases of freeze-dried meals, each with 12 servings, totaling 720 servings. 40 gallons of water in sealed containers. 32 high-calorie emergency bars, each with 3,600 calories. A cooking stove that runs on solid fuel tablets, with 2 packs of tablets. A manual can opener. A water filtration pump with replacement filters. Vitamins. Salt, sugar, and cooking oil in vacuum-sealed bags. At 5 people, rationing carefully, maybe 1,800 calories a day per person. The food from this unit alone could last us close to 90 days. Longer if we supplement with anything else we find. I don't say this number out loud right away, because I don't want anyone to relax too much and stop thinking about what comes next. But inside, I feel something shift. The immediate pressure of starving in 3 days lifts off my chest. The medical bin. Once I explain what we need it for, and take my bolt cutters to the padlock, it contains a substantial first aid kit. Gauze, bandages, antiseptic, pain medication in sealed bottles, antibiotics in sealed bottles, an EpiPen, blood pressure medication, a manual blood pressure cuff, surgical gloves, a CPR face shield, a splint kit, a suture kit in a sealed pouch, and a small medical reference manual. Whoever Gordon Alcott is, he either has medical training or did very thorough research. The weapons I take stock of separately and don't share the details with everyone immediately. There are 3 locked cases, 2 rifle cases, and 1 pistol case. I have no idea how to get into them, and it doesn't feel right to try, not yet. Beside them, 12 sealed ammo cans, stacked. I can read the labels through the clear plastic wrap. I leave those cases exactly where they are. What I do take is everything else. The water filtration pump, the stove, the medical kit, the food, all of it, carried in trips to the security office area, then reorganized into a secondary space I've identified as our main base, the manager's office behind the main reception desk. It's larger than the security room, has a window, internal, looking out into the reception area, not external, has a door with a solid lock, and has electrical outlets on the south wall. It also has a couch, a blocky old gray thing that's been there since before my time, probably used by weekend staff who worked long shifts, and a table, and enough floor space for 5 people to sleep in shifts if necessary. By 3 in the afternoon on day 1, we've moved our base to the manager's office, set up the security room as an observation post with Donna as the first monitor watch, run an intercom cable so we can communicate between the two rooms, and inventoried everything we have. I stand in the manager's office doorway and look at what we've built in 6 hours and feel something I can't quite name. Not quite satisfaction, because the situation outside hasn't changed, and we haven't solved anything, really. More like the specific feeling of a problem being broken into manageable pieces. The thing that was one enormous impossible thing is now 10 smaller things, and 10 smaller things I know how to approach. My head still hurts a little. I drink some water. That night, the first night, none of us sleep well or much. I take the first 2-hour monitor watch because I know the camera system best and can spot anything anomalous. What I see, across those 2 hours, doesn't make me feel better about the outside world. By dark, full dark, around 7:30, the number of figures visible on the north side camera has grown from 6 to maybe 15. They're moving slowly along the fence. Most of them press against it for a while and then drift on. 2 of them are on the ground, not moving, and I can't tell from the camera angle what that means. The power is holding. The overhead lights outside are on. The facility has exterior lighting on a photoelectric switch, meaning it comes on automatically at dark, and the figures outside seem drawn to the light. Several of them cluster near the lit sections of fence. I make a note. When we want the exterior to stop attracting attention, we may need to kill the exterior lights. That means going to the electrical panel in Building A, which is manageable. I handwrite all of this in the maintenance log. I've always kept the log meticulously. It's one of the things I'm actually good at in this job, the documentation habit. And now, in the quiet of the security office at 10 at night, with the camera feeds glowing on the monitors, and the sound of Brett snoring faintly from the manager's office, I feel the habit carrying me forward. Write it down. Date it. Keep the record. October. Whatever date it is. I check my phone, which still shows the date even without service. October 23rd. Day 1. I write that at the top of the page, and then everything I know. The man at the front entrance door was still there when it got dark. He pressed his face against the glass, and the exterior light caught the pale flatness of his eyes. There was blood on his shirt that had dried brown. He didn't give up. I don't think giving up is something he was capable of anymore. Tyler taps on the security office door at midnight to relieve me. I've given him a basic orientation to the camera system, and he's asked good questions about it. Which cameras cover which areas, how to zoom, how to tell if one goes offline. He's more capable than I expected, which I feel a little guilty about expecting, as if I'd assumed the kid with the drum kit was going to be useless. I sleep on half the couch. Donna has the other half. Frank has spread his jacket on the floor and is using his leather bag as a pillow. I watch him sleep for a moment before I close my eyes. His face is still and composed, mouth slightly open, the leather bag tucked close against his side. He never put that bag down, not once, all day. I close my eyes. Day 2. I wake up to Tyler's voice on the intercom, quietly urgent. Cal, the cameras, north side. Can you come look at something? I'm in the security office in 90 seconds. The north side camera, the one that shows the facility fence and the beginning of the residential neighborhood beyond, shows something I wasn't expecting at this hour, which is just past 5 in the morning. A car is parked on the street outside the fence, running, lights on, and there's a person standing beside it, not pressing against the fence, not moving in that slow, aimless way, standing with intention, looking at the facility. How long has that been there? I say. I don't know. I noticed it maybe 10 minutes ago. It wasn't there when I started my watch. The car is a dark-colored pickup. The person standing beside it is wearing a heavy jacket and what looks like a backpack. They're just looking at the facility. After a moment, they walk to the fence, but they don't press against it. They grip the chain links with both hands and look through. That's a regular person, Tyler says. Yeah. Can we get their attention? Let them know we're here? I think about this. Getting someone's attention means making noise or turning on lights. And making noise or turning on lights means potentially attracting every infected person in the area. Not right now, I say. Not safely. The person at the fence looks at the building for another 2 minutes, then goes back to the truck, gets in, and drives away east toward Route 9. Tyler and I watch the space where the truck was. "Someone knows we're here," he says. "Maybe. Or they're looking for a way in, not at us specifically. The exterior lights are still on. Someone could see them from the road." I look at him. "That's a good point. I'm going to kill the exterior lights today. We don't want to be a beacon." Tyler winces at the word beacon. I realize I used it. I was trying to make a point. "We don't want to be standing out," I correct myself. "We don't want to draw attention." He nods. I also realize he's been awake all night, and he's 17, and he's handling this better than some adults I know. "Good watch," I say. "Go sleep." Killing the exterior lights requires going to the Building A electrical panel. This is a 10-minute walk through the facility's internal corridors. Perfectly safe as long as no exterior doors are opened. I do it at 7 in the morning, after eating half an emergency bar and drinking the first cup of terrible instant coffee from a mug on the small electric hot plate I'd set up in the manager's office, using one of the wall outlets. The coffee is genuinely bad. The instant coffee from the pantry cabinet is an off-brand that tastes like someone described coffee to a chemist who had never drunk any. But it's hot, and it has caffeine, and I drink it. At the Building A panel, I cut the circuit breaker for the exterior lighting loop. Simple. The outside of the facility goes dark. On my way back through Building A, I stop at a unit I'd flagged the day before as worth checking. Unit A7, rented by a tenant who accessed it frequently, the most recent access being 3 weeks ago. The access log shows regular visits, every week or two, for the past 18 months. The tenant's profile shows a business name, Holloway Brothers Outdoor Supply. The unit is a mid-size, 12 by 15. I use my override key. Camping equipment, sleeping bags, 4 of them, various grades. A rolled-up tent, camp cookware in a nylon bag, 3 water bottles, a camp stove with a dozen isobutane canisters, a lantern, a multi-tool, 2 pairs of leather work gloves, a box of wooden matches in a waterproof case, rope, tarp, a first aid kit smaller than the one in Unit 114, but still useful. I stand in the doorway of Unit A7 for a moment just looking at all of this. The sleeping bags alone are more valuable than I can express right now, because sleeping on a couch and a floor with 1 jacket between 5 people is already creating aches and complaints. I carry the sleeping bags back first, making 2 trips, and everyone's eyes light up in a way that seems disproportionate, until you remember that small comforts mean more when you're scared. I go back for the rest. The next thing I need to do is check the generator. The backup diesel generator is in the utility room on the east side of Building A. It's a big gray box about the size of a chest freezer, mounted on a concrete pad. I know this machine. I've done the maintenance checks on it quarterly for 4 years. It was last serviced 7 months ago by a company contracted by the property management firm, and I'd noted at the time that the service was slightly overdue and the fuel level was at roughly half, meaning 125 gallons of diesel. 7 months is a long time though. Diesel fuel degrades, especially in storage conditions that aren't ideal. I check the tank gauge now, and it reads 110 gallons. We've used 15 gallons in the 7 months since the service check, just from the occasional test run and the small draw of the trickle charger on the system battery. That's fine. But I think about fuel differently now than I did as a maintenance guy who just has to make sure the numbers are right for the quarterly report. 110 gallons of diesel. At normal facility load, all the lighting, climate control at full, the security system, the office equipment, this thing burns maybe 35 to 40 gallons per day. That gives us less than 3 days. The math is not good. So I think about what we actually need the generator for. Not the office equipment. None of us are going to be printing anything. Not the climate control at full setting. The buildings are well insulated, and in October, the outside temperature isn't going to drop low enough to threaten us even with reduced heating. I can dial the climate control down significantly. I can kill non-essential lighting loops. I need to keep the security camera system, the intercom, the electrical outlets in the manager's office, and the security room, and enough lighting to navigate safely at night. I work through the math carefully. Essential only load, roughly 8 to 10 gallons per day. At that rate, 110 gallons gives us 11 to 13 days. That's better. That's something to work with. I write this in the log. There's also the question of what happens after that. The facility has solar panels on the roof of Building A. They were installed 2 years ago as part of an energy efficiency initiative from corporate. Small system, 12 panels, designed to offset some of the peak daytime power draw. They're grid-tied, which means under normal circumstances, they only work when the grid is live. But I know something about that system that the property management company probably doesn't know I know. There's a manual isolation switch in the electrical panel that can reconfigure the solar system to charge a battery bank instead of feeding back to the grid. It was never set up that way because we didn't have a battery bank, but the wiring for it was stubbed out when the system was installed. The electrician who did the job had apparently done the installation based on a spec that included battery storage, and then the battery bank had been value engineered out of the project before completion. The switch was there. The wiring was there. We just didn't have batteries. But there are 12 sealed lead-acid batteries in the emergency lighting system throughout the facility, and while those aren't really meant for this kind of application, they could potentially be rewired in a bank to store solar output if I had the right connecting hardware. I think about this while checking the generator. I don't say anything to the others yet. It's too early in the problem, too many variables I haven't assessed, but it's there, in the back of my head, a possible path that buys more time. On day 2, I also start doing something systematic with the camera footage. The camera system stores a rolling 48-hour archive, the last 2 days of footage from all 22 cameras. Most of this footage, for most cameras, is going to be irrelevant. But one camera shows the front entrance interior, including the lobby area just inside the main doors. I review the footage from yesterday morning, 7:45, 8, 8:15. At 8:47, a man walks into the lobby from outside through the main door, meaning he had a key card or a code. He was a legitimate tenant. He comes in through the outer door, which leads into a small airlock-style entry vestibule, and then through the inner door into the lobby proper. And something is wrong with him immediately. He's moving with that same sideways weight thing I saw in the figures outside. His head is low. He walks into the lobby and then just stops in the middle of it, facing the inner door toward the building corridor. He stays there, doesn't go toward his unit, doesn't go to the office, just stands in the lobby, facing the corridor door. The inner corridor door is the one with the sensor. The sensor that, if sustained motion is detected for 30 seconds, initiates the lockdown protocol. He stands there for 1 minute and 40 seconds. He doesn't touch the door. He just stands facing it, and then he turns, responding to something, a sound maybe, and walks back into the airlock vestibule, and as he does, he triggers the sensor from inside. 30 seconds later, the lockdown initiates. He triggered the lockdown himself, accidentally, by standing in range of the sensor and then moving. I watched this footage 3 times to make sure I'm reading it right. He didn't break in. He had facility access. He was a tenant, or a tenant's associate, or a tenant had given him their code. He came in already infected, and then he wandered into sensor range and started our prison. I checked the access log for 8:47 a.m. on October 23rd. The code used at the outer door belongs to Unit B88. I pull up the tenant record for B88. The tenant is listed as Kevin Draper. The unit has been rented for 3 months. The profile shows a home address in the residential neighborhood north of the facility. I sit with this for a while. Kevin Draper came in at 8:47 in the morning, infected, and accidentally triggered our lockdown. He's in the facility somewhere. Either he went somewhere after triggering the sensor, or he's still in the lobby vestibule. I check the camera for the lobby vestibule now, in real time. The vestibule is empty. The outer door is closed and locked from the outside by the lockdown. The inner door is closed. But there's a camera in the Building B corridor entrance, near Unit B88. I switch to it. There's a figure standing at the end of the corridor, near where Building B's main corridor meets the junction to B row. It's just standing there, facing the corridor, not pressing against anything, not moving, just standing. He must have gone into the building after the lockdown hit, and before the corridor lights changed. following some sound or movement into the building. And then the lights changed and there was nothing to follow and he just stopped. He's in Building B, standing in the corridor near Unit 88. And I can't use Building B's main corridor safely without going past him. I check whether there's an alternate route. There is. Building A and Building B are connected by a cross corridor at the north end of both buildings, meaning I can reach Building B's far end without going through the main B corridor. But the middle and south sections of Building B, including Units 114 and Tyler's old unit and Donna's Unit 82, are accessed from the main corridor, and Kevin Draper is standing right in the middle of it. I don't say anything to the group yet. I need to think about this. I think about it for about 2 hours. The problem is straightforward in concept and terrifying in execution. The infected person in the corridor will move toward sound. If I stay quiet, he stays where he is. If I make sound, including opening or closing a door loudly, or speaking in a normal voice in the corridor, he will move toward me. He can't open doors. If I go into a unit and close the door, he can't follow. But the space between where I am and where he is an open corridor, and if he starts moving while I'm in it, I have nowhere to go that doesn't require me to run and make more noise and potentially attract him further. What I need to do is get past him, or move him, or both. And I need to do it without making enough noise to be heard outside, because even as I'm thinking through this problem, I can hear, very faintly, the sound of footsteps on the other side of the building's exterior wall, the infected outside, moving along the perimeter. I take a hammer from the maintenance supply cabinet. I take a length of PVC pipe from the plumbing section. I think about this for another 10 minutes, and then I go to the north connecting corridor, the one that bypasses the main B corridor, and I make my way around to the far end of Building B. From this end, I can see Kevin Draper in the corridor below me. I'm looking from the north end. He's about 60 feet away near the B88 section, standing with his back to me. He hasn't heard me. The cross corridor I came through has thick walls and the sound didn't carry. I walk to the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall at this end of Building B. I take it down carefully, slowly, making no sudden movements, and I carry it to a point about 15 feet behind Kevin. I put it down very slowly on the concrete floor. Then I take the length of PVC pipe and I hit the wall of Unit B209, the unit behind me, Frank's unit, with a sharp crack, once. Kevin Draper turns immediately toward the sound. He turns away from the direction I need to go. He starts walking toward me, toward the sound. I step back through the north cross corridor, around the corner, and wait. I hear him shuffle past the cross corridor entrance. He's moving away from the unit area I need. I double back. Quickly, quietly. I get into the main B corridor from the north end before he can turn around. I'm now between him and the units I need. If he turns, I have 60 feet of corridor before I reach him. If I work quickly and quietly, I can access what I need and get out. I go to Unit 82 first, Donna's unit. She'd asked me to get something from it, a medication in a blue bag on the top shelf. She takes it for her heart. I get it. I get 2 more sleeping bags from a unit I'd spotted yesterday with some camping gear. I get a box of books from a unit whose tenant, based on their profile, seems to be a wilderness survival enthusiast. Not the books themselves, but the insight about what the unit might contain. I find 2 reference books on wild plants and foraging in the Northeast, which might matter later, and a hand crank emergency radio, still in its package. I get out of the B corridor without incident. Kevin Draper is standing at the far end, facing the wall he heard the sound from, confused in the way that only things without a working brain can be confused. Not frustrated, not thinking, just oriented toward an input that has stopped. I go back to the manager's office and I tell everyone about Kevin. Brett's first response is, "Can we take him out?" I say, "Maybe, if we have to. But right now, he's staying where we put him, and he's not a threat as long as we stay out of that corridor." "But we might need that corridor," Brett says. "Then we deal with it when we need to, not before." Brett doesn't look satisfied with this, but he doesn't argue. I also don't say what I'm actually thinking, which is that taking out an infected person inside the building seems like a line that, once crossed, changes things in a way I'm not ready for yet. Kevin Draper is, was a tenant of this facility. He had a unit. He had a code. Somewhere he has a home address in the neighborhood to the north, and a life that existed before 8:47 yesterday morning. I know that doesn't matter anymore, not functionally. I know what he is now, but I'm not ready to cross that line at the end of day 2, when we're still warm and relatively fed, and the situation hasn't demanded it. Give it a few more days. Everything changes. Day 3. The hand crank radio I'd found in the Unit B3 camping equipment turns out to be functional, and this is more important than almost anything else that happens on day 3. I find a local emergency broadcast frequency, one of the standard NOAA weather and emergency frequencies, and what I hear on it is not a weather forecast. It's a recorded loop of a civil emergency announcement, repeating every 4 minutes. The tone of it is careful, like whoever recorded it was trying very hard to say the right things without causing panic. It says, "Outbreak conditions have been confirmed in multiple counties. Residents are advised to shelter in place, avoid contact with infected individuals, do not approach affected persons. Emergency services are operating at reduced capacity." It gives a phone number for a coordination center that we all try to call, and none of our phones can reach. It says, at the end, in a different voice, that sounds like it was added as an afterthought, "If you are in a secure location with resources, stay where you are." Stay where you are. Tyler, who is sitting with his knees drawn up to his chest, listening to the broadcast, says, "At least we know it's real." "We knew it was real," Brett says. "I mean, officially, someone out there knows about it. Someone's broadcasting." "That's a recorded loop," Frank says. "He's been quieter than anyone else today, which I've been noticing. Could have been recorded days ago." "Still counts," Tyler says. Frank looks at Tyler and then looks away. The hand crank radio also, on another frequency, picks up something that isn't a civil emergency broadcast. It's a voice, a real, live voice, not a recording, broadcasting on what I recognize as a CB radio channel. A woman's voice, crackling in and out. She's talking fast and I can only catch fragments. But what I piece together over a few minutes of listening is this. She's somewhere in a building to the east of us, possibly near or on Route 9, and she's with another person, an older man, and they've been there for 2 days, and they have food and water, but they need other things. She lists, and the list includes, specifically, insulin. Tyler sits up straight when he hears this. "There are people over there," he says, "like a mile away." She said Route 9. "I heard. We need to talk to them. We don't have a CB radio." The hand crank has a transmit function. "Look, it says right here." He holds up the radio, pointing at a small label on the back panel listing the frequencies and functions. I take the radio and look at it. He's right. It does have a transmit capability on the CB channels. It's not a powerful transmitter. It's a consumer emergency radio, not a proper CB setup. But it might reach a mile if conditions are right. "Let me try," Tyler says. I hand it to him. He's already figured out which button to push. "Hello? This is Tyler. I'm at a storage facility on Wentworth Road, east of you. I can hear you broadcasting. If you can hear this, please respond." He releases the button. Static. Static. And then, breaking through. "Oh my God. Someone's there. Hello? Hello, Wentworth Road? Are you there?" Tyler almost drops the radio. What follows is one of the stranger conversations I've been part of, conducted through a crackling consumer-grade radio between a 17-year-old drummer and a woman named Patrice Holloman, who turns out to be stuck in a hardware store on the Route 9 commercial strip with an elderly man named Rod, who she describes as the previous owner of the hardware store, who is 71 and diabetic and has been telling me what to do for 2 days and running low on insulin. Patrice is, as best I can tell from 20 minutes of radio conversation, a very practical, somewhat impatient woman in her mid-40s who was at the hardware store when the outbreak started because she'd gone there to get weather stripping, and she was not the kind of person who accepted that a situation was impossible. She'd gotten Rod into the storage room in the back, barricaded the front, assessed the supplies, hardware store, lots of useful things, not a lot of food, and been broadcasting on the CB for 2 days waiting for someone to answer. She sounds tired and like she's had it, but not like she's going to break. Rod, she says, needs insulin within about 5 days or the situation becomes a medical crisis. We don't have insulin. I checked the medical kit from Unit 114. No insulin. We'd need to get it from somewhere. There's a pharmacy, I say. I think about the commercial strip on Route 9. On Route 9, there's a CVS about 3/4 of a mile north of the hardware store, if they haven't been overrun. There's infected everywhere on Route 9, Patrice says through the static. Every time I open the back door to check, they're moving around but not in a pattern. How do you get to a pharmacy? We don't, not right now. I take the radio from Tyler. How are you set for water? We have a working bathroom. We've been drinking tap water. It's still running. Okay. Our water situation is more complicated. We have sealed containers, but they'll run out. The facility has a fire suppression system. There are storage tanks in a pump room, full of water that's been treated, but not really potable without filtering. We have a filtering pump. I pause. We also have enough food for a long time. What do you have? In the hardware store? Granola bars in the register area. Vending machine, but it's electric, and we haven't had power since yesterday. Coffee machine. Same issue. There's a lunch bag in the back fridge that has someone's food in it. Sandwiches, looks like. Still okay. And Rod has some cashews he had in his jacket pocket. Okay. We need to figure out a way to get you some food and get Rod insulin before his situation becomes an emergency. We have, I'd say, 4 or 5 days before the insulin becomes critical. He says 5, maybe 6 if he's careful. All right. I'm going to think about this. I put the radio down. Tyler is looking at me with an expression that I recognize. The "what do we do" look that I've seen from all 4 of them in different forms over the past 2 days. The look that means they've decided I'm the one who figures things out. I don't know how that happened exactly. I'm a maintenance supervisor. I inspect units and fix HVAC systems and document things in a log. But apparently that's enough to be in charge when things go wrong. The insulin problem forces the supply run question earlier than I'd planned. I'd been thinking about it since day 1. At some point we were going to need to move beyond this facility, at least partially, to get things we couldn't get here. The obvious target was the grocery warehouse 400 yards to our west, a regional distribution center that I knew stored dry goods and some non-perishables. I didn't know its exact inventory, but warehouses like that typically have sections of packaged goods, and that's what we'd need most for the long term. A pharmacy run is different. A pharmacy on Route 9, 3/4 of a mile away, through an area that Patrice is describing as active with infected. That's a different level of exposure. But Rod is 71 and diabetic and running out of insulin, and Patrice is alone with him, and they heard us on the radio and now they know we exist, which means the moral weight of ignoring the insulin problem is something I'm not willing to carry. I talked to Brett about the supply run. We're in the utility room. I wanted a private conversation, away from the others, and the utility room is the best option. Brett is the only other person in this facility who has the physical size and apparent capability to be useful in a dangerous outside excursion. Frank is physically capable, but I don't know him, and something about him still bothers me. Tyler is 17, and the answer is no. When? Brett says. Not yet. A couple more days. I need to understand the patterns outside first. When the infected are most active, where they cluster, what draws them. I've been watching the cameras. I pause. I also need to think about how to do it without drawing a large group of them back toward this facility. How many are out there? On the cameras, I can see our immediate area. In our area, there are between 8 and 20 at any given time, moving along the fence line or on Wentworth Road. The number changes. Some come, some go. They follow sound and movement, so they drift toward wherever activity is. I think about this. If we make a lot of noise somewhere away from the facility first, create a distraction that draws them to a different area, we might be able to move through a clearer path. Brett nods slowly. A decoy. More like a diversion. I need to figure out the specifics. What about a vehicle? We can't exactly walk a mile through infected territory. There are 2 vehicles in the loading dock area. Tenants who drove in to access units. and got trapped when the lockdown hit. One of them is a pickup, one is a minivan. Both are inside the loading dock area, past the security gate, which means they're in the facility's protected zone. I have the keys to the loading dock, meaning I can open gate 3 without compromising the other gates. Brett stares at me. You're thinking a vehicle run. I'm thinking about it. Through the fence gate? The facility has a vehicle entry gate on the east side. It's a chain-link double gate, padlocked. I have the key. From the vehicle gate, we're on the service road that connects to the east side of Wentworth. From Wentworth, Route 9 is a straight shot east. I pause. But yes, through that gate, into the open. Brett is quiet for a moment. Then, the noise from an engine. It'll attract them. Yes, so we'd need to move fast, with a plan, and get back through that gate before a significant number follow. How do you figure out what a significant number means? Practice run first. Short distance, just outside the gate, back in. See how they respond. Brett thinks about this. When you say practice run, you mean actually driving outside. Yes. He blows out a slow breath through his nose. Okay, he says finally. But I'm driving. I've driven in worse. He pauses. Construction. You move big equipment through bad sites. Mud, debris, people in the way. I'm better behind a wheel in chaos than most people. I don't argue with this. I make a mental note that this is probably true. Day 4. The water. I've been thinking about the fire suppression system since day 1, but I didn't want to address it while we still had the 40 gallons from Unit 114. 40 gallons between 5 people, drinking about a gallon a day each. 8 days. We're on day 4, meaning we've used roughly 4 gallons, leaving 36. Still substantial, but I don't want to hit the last 10 gallons, and only then start working on the backup. The fire suppression system uses a tank in a pump room at the back of Building C. The tank holds 300 gallons. It's the standard setup, fed by a municipal water supply line. When the municipal water is running, the tank stays topped up automatically. When the municipal supply goes off, if and when it does, the tank is a sealed reservoir. The water in it is treated with a small amount of corrosion inhibitor to protect the piping, not the kind of treatment that makes it safe to drink without filtering. But we have the water filtration pump from Unit 1114, and that pump is rated for chemical and bacterial filtration. I go to the pump room in Building C and assess the situation. The fire suppression feed valve, the line from the municipal supply, is still showing pressure, meaning municipal water is still running to the facility. The tank gauge shows 300 gallons, full. I open one of the tap points in the system. There's an access valve near the bottom of the tank, meant for maintenance, and I test the filtration pump with a sample. The pump works. The output water, passing through the filter, is clear and tasteless. 300 gallons in the tank. If the municipal supply stays on, it refills automatically. If it doesn't, 300 gallons is about 60 days at a gallon per person per day for 5 people. We're not going to die of thirst anytime soon. I tell the group this at what has become our daily briefing. We've naturally fallen into meeting together after breakfast, going through what I know and what needs to happen. It's not a democracy exactly, but it's also not a military command structure. More like a work site where I happen to be the one who knows where all the tools are. Donna's response to the water news is, "That's wonderful. Now what about the toilet situation?" I had been hoping this question would take longer to come up. It had not. The facility has 2 bathrooms, one in the manager's office area and one in the Building A staff section. Both are functional while we have water pressure, which we currently do. The moment we lose municipal water pressure, the toilets stop functioning. I explain this, and then explain the options. We have a chemical camp toilet kit in the Unit A7 camping supplies, and I have every intention of digging through every unit I can access looking for more. For the longer term, there's a maintenance trench in the utility area of Building A that I've been thinking about repurposing. Donna nods. She looks slightly revolted, which is fair. Frank says, "The municipal water is likely to fail in the next week or 2. Cities don't run forever without people maintaining the systems." That's accurate, I say. So we have a deadline. We have several deadlines. We've been working around them. He looks at me with that same carefully neutral expression. Have you given any thought to a longer-term plan? Not just the next few days. Yes. Would you like to share it? When it's more developed, I look at him steadily. I'm not holding back. It's just a work in progress. This is slightly less than completely true. I have a clearer picture in my head than I'm sharing. But I want to understand Frank Delacroix better before I tell him everything I'm thinking, and I haven't had the chance yet. Day 4, late afternoon. I go to Building C to check on something. Frank's unit is B209. He's in the manager's office with the others when I go. I tell everyone I'm doing a facility check, which is true. I'm just also checking a specific thing while I'm at it. Building C is the oldest part of the facility. Single story, no climate control, roll-up doors on both sides of the aisles. The units in C are cheaper and more basic. No outlets, no climate control, bare concrete floors and corrugated steel walls. The tenants in C tend to be storing vehicles, large items, or things that don't need temperature regulation. But when I check the access log for Building C, something is wrong. According to the log, no fewer than 8 different units in the south section of Building C, units C140 through C155, have been accessed more frequently than any other units in the facility. With a pattern of visits that doesn't match any normal storage usage, the access times cluster in the evenings, after 9 p.m., before 6 a.m. Multiple units accessed in sequence on the same night, by the same access code. The code belongs to a business account for a company called Meridian Holdings, which rented all 8 units simultaneously 14 months ago on a single lease. I look at the lease document on my tablet, Meridian Holdings. The contact name on the lease is listed as a property representative. Corporate address that I search in the property management company's network and find nothing useful about. The units are C140 through C155, the 8 largest units in Building C, all in a cluster in the south section, adjacent to a side door that opens onto a small external courtyard that is, I now realize, positioned in the building's south exterior blind spot. The one area of the facility that isn't well covered by the camera system, there's a camera aimed at the exterior of that courtyard, but it has a viewing angle that I now realize covers only about 2/3 of the space, leaving a section of wall and a secondary access hatch in the corner invisible. I stand in the Building C main aisle for a long time before I go to the south section. I open Unit C140 with the master key. There are large duffel bags on the floor, metal cases stacked against the back wall, shelving on the right side with cardboard boxes. I don't touch any of it. I just stand in the doorway and look. The duffel bags have a logo printed on them that means nothing to me. The metal cases are the kind used for sensitive equipment, foam-lined interiors if the locks were open. I open Unit C141. More cases. Some boxes with handwritten labels that I can read from the door. Numbers, codes, nothing that means anything to a storage facility maintenance supervisor. Unit C142 is different. There are bunks in it. Not proper bunks. Plywood sheets on metal pipe frames, with sleeping bags on them. 3 of them. A small propane camp stove with a fuel canister on a folding table. Cups, utensils. A corkboard on the wall with papers pinned to it that I can't read from the doorway. Someone has been living in this unit. Periodically, regularly. I close the door. I don't look at the rest of them. I go back to the manager's office. Frank Delacroix is sitting where I left him, reading one of the wilderness survival books I'd brought back from the B3 unit. He looks up when I come in, and for a fraction of a second, his face does something it hasn't done before in my presence. A flicker of something. There and gone so fast I almost miss it. Almost. Building C is fine, I say. Nothing to worry about there. Good, he says, and goes back to his book. I don't sleep well again on night 4. I lie on the couch, listening to the distant sounds of the facility, the HVAC hum, the occasional settling sounds of the metal buildings, and try to figure out what I'm dealing with. Who owns Meridian Holdings? What's in those cases? Who's been sleeping in Unit C142? Most importantly, does Frank Delacroix know about this? I think about the timing of his arrival here. He came to the facility early in the morning on day 1, before the lockdown, accessing his unit at an hour that most tenants don't use. early enough that the access log shows him as one of only 2 people in the facility before me. He came in with a leather bag that he hasn't put down. He's calm in a specific way. Not the calm of someone who's dealt with emergencies before, but the calm of someone who's thinking carefully about what to say and what not to say. He watches the monitors. He asks questions about plans. There are 2 possibilities I can see. He's connected to Meridian Holdings, and he's here because he needed to check on something in those units, and the lockdown caught him. Or he's completely unrelated to it, and his presence in Building C is coincidence. I don't believe in convenient coincidences right now. The question is what to do about it. I can't kick him out. Kicking him out means opening an exterior door and putting a person outside in current conditions, which I won't do. I can't directly confront him without more information, because if he's dangerous, confronting him in close quarters with 4 other people present is a bad option. What I can do is keep him close, watch what he does, and not tell him things I don't need to tell him. I decide not to tell anyone else about Building C until I understand it better. I get maybe 3 hours of actual sleep. Day 5. The first practice run outside happens on day 5. Brett and I have been planning it for 2 days. The plan: drive the pickup truck, which belongs to a tenant who happened to leave his keys in the vehicle, a lucky break, from the loading dock out through the east vehicle gate, travel 2 blocks down the service road, turn around, and come back. No stopping, no getting out. A reconnaissance run to measure the response. How many infected in the immediate area? How fast they move toward a vehicle? How they cluster? What happens when we come back through the gate? We tell the others the plan. Tyler wants to come. I say no. Donna doesn't want to come. Frank says he'd prefer to stay and monitor the cameras, which is the response I was hoping for, because it means I can watch what he does when Brett and I aren't here. I give Tyler a specific job: watch the monitors, call the intercom if anything changes outside or inside, and if he sees Frank going toward Building C, tell me immediately on our return. Tyler looks at me. Building C? Just keep an eye on everything. Okay? He nods slowly, reading something in my face. He's a smart kid. Brett drives. I'm in the passenger seat. We run the truck through the building. It fits, barely, through the internal corridor between the loading dock and the east section, and then through the vehicle gate that I've unlocked and propped open with a concrete block. Beyond the gate is the service road, 40 feet of cracked asphalt, then the residential street that connects to Wentworth. The moment we exit the gate, the air is different. It's October morning cold with a smell that I can't identify exactly. Smoke, yes, from somewhere, and something else underneath it. Something the outdoor air in this part of the world has never had before. Not a specific smell. More like the absence of the smells that were usually there. No exhaust. No food smells from the neighborhood. No particular human activity smell. Just cold air, and smoke, and something wrong. There are 3 infected visible from the vehicle gate. 1 on the residential street, moving away from us. 2, near the far end of the service road, facing away. The sound of the truck's engine makes all 3 of them turn immediately. The 1 on the residential street starts moving toward us. The 2 at the far end turn and begin moving toward the sound. They're fast, Brett says. His voice is very level. They are when they're responding to something. When there's nothing to respond to, they move slowly. How do we go? Turn around at the end of the service road and come back. Keep moving. Don't stop. He puts the truck in drive and we go forward. The 2 at the end of the service road are moving toward us as we approach. Brett doesn't hesitate. He keeps his speed steady, not fast enough to spin out on the cracked surface, not slow enough to let them reach us. We get to the end of the road. He turns the truck around in a wide arc, and the 2 infected have moved close enough that one of them gets a hand on the truck's passenger window as we complete the turn. Just a flat palm against the glass, sliding off. My heart does something unpleasant. Brett accelerates back toward the gate. The 1 from the residential street has made it to the service road and is in our path. Brett doesn't swerve drastically. He moves left just enough. The infected goes past on the right side, close enough that I see its face clearly for the first time. A man, middle-aged, wearing a postal worker's uniform, torn at the shoulder. His eyes are open and unfocused like the one at the front entrance. We go through the gate. I'm out of the truck before it fully stops, and I pull the gate closed and get the chain back on the lock, while Brett kills the engine. I stand against the closed gate for a moment. 7 infected visible now, 4 that were outside before, plus 3 that had come from somewhere else in response to the engine noise. All of them reaching the fence line from outside, pressing against the chain link. None of them doing anything productive about it, just pressing. 7, Brett says. He's standing beside me. He's breathing a little fast. How many more are out there that we didn't see? Don't know, but they came from different directions. There are more on the street, probably several blocks of infected on and around Wentworth. So any supply run is going to be through a lot of them. Yes, I watched the 7 at the fence. They followed the sound. If we could make sound somewhere else first, somewhere away from our route. A radio. We play a radio loud in the opposite direction. Exactly what I was thinking. I pause. We need something with a timer or a remote, so we can start the sound from inside the facility, get in position, and then go when the distraction has had time to draw them in the other direction. We stand there looking at the fence for another minute. This is survivable, Brett says. He doesn't sound entirely certain, but he sounds like he's deciding to believe it. We can do this. We can, I say. Day 6. 2 things happen on day 6. One of them I expected, one of them I didn't. The first. The sound from Building C. I'm in the security office late morning, reviewing camera footage, and the camera for Building C's south section shows something moving, not an infected person. I know what those look like on camera by now, the specific irregular movement. This is a person, moving with purpose and coordination and deliberate speed. They come through the south section side door, the one that's in the partial camera blind spot, and they're wearing a dark jacket and a backpack, and they go directly to Unit C-142 and open it with a key and go inside and close the door. I watch for 40 minutes. The door doesn't open again. I go to the manager's office. Frank is there, eating. I look at him. His face is exactly the same as always, calm, contained, watching me watch him. I need to ask you something directly, I say. Of course, he says. What do you know about the units in Building C, the south section? Something shifts behind his eyes, a very small shift, but I've been watching for it. What specifically are you referring to? He says. Units C-140 through C-155, rented by a company called Meridian Holdings. He puts down his food. The others in the room have gone very quiet. I'm their accountant, he says. I was. Frank Delacroix. He tells us, sitting in the manager's office, all 5 of us, in a silence that's thick enough to almost have a texture, that he was an accountant for a man named Dexter Holloway, who ran a logistics operation out of several locations in the county. He says, logistics operation, with the careful diction of a man who is choosing his words about something illegal without wanting to say it's illegal. I wait, and he adds, more quietly, Mr. Holloway moved things, through various warehouse and storage facilities. Merchandise that doesn't go through normal channels. Stolen merchandise, Brett says. Frank pauses. Yes. The 8 units in Building C were Meridian Holdings' main local distribution point. Frank had set up the lease. It was his job to maintain the paper trail for the properties Holloway used, keeping them in clean corporate names, paying on time, keeping everything looking ordinary. He'd come to the facility on the morning of the outbreak because Holloway had texted him at 6 in the morning, saying there was a problem with one of the C units, and he needed Frank to check on it before the day started. Frank had come in, done what he needed to do, and then the lockdown happened. The person in Unit C-142 right now, I say. Who is that? Frank is quiet for a moment. I don't know who Holloway sent. I didn't know anyone else would be coming. But someone is there. Yes. How did they get in? The side door in the south section connects to a secondary access point that has its own key. It's on the building plans as a maintenance access. Holloway had keys made. He pauses. I don't know how many people he sent or why. I look at him for a long time. You could have told us this on day one. Yes. He doesn't offer an excuse for why he didn't. Are these people dangerous? Holloway's people? Yes. Generally, yes. The room is very quiet. Donna says, so we have criminals in our building. In Building C, I say, which is connected to our section by 2 internal corridors. I think about this, and they don't know about us yet. They may, Frank says. They may have seen the lights in the other buildings, or heard movement. Or, Tyler says from the floor, they could hear us on the intercom when we broadcast. I look at Tyler. He's right. The intercom system broadcasts to speakers throughout the facility, including in Building C. Everything I said on day one when I first called everyone over the intercom, they would have heard it if they were present. But if they came in through that side door today, they may not have been here for the day one broadcast. When did they arrive? I ask Frank. Today is the first time I've seen the door open. Okay, I think. So either they just got here, or they've been here since the beginning and staying very quiet. I go to the security office and review the Building C camera footage from day one. The side door opens at 6:47 a.m. on October 23rd. Before me, before the lockdown, 3 figures come through the door and go directly into Unit C-142 and don't come out until the following morning when they exit through the same door and go. The camera angle loses them in the blind spot. So they've been here all along. They left, went somewhere, and now someone's back. They heard my day one intercom broadcast. We have a problem, I say. I spend the rest of day 6 thinking, and not showing that I'm thinking. The problem with the Building C situation, it's theirs first, in a sense. They had units here before us. Whatever they had stored in those units, the cases, the duffel bags, they came here to protect it, or to use it. And now, trapped by the lockdown, they're coexisting with us, in the same facility, without having made contact. That last part is the thing I can't read. Why haven't they made contact? They heard the intercom. They know there are at least 5 people in the other buildings. They've been here for 5 days without reaching out, without making themselves known. Either they're waiting for something, or they don't want to be known, or they've decided we're not worth dealing with, or they're planning something. I start thinking about what they have in Building C that we might want, and what we have that they might want. They have, in those metal cases and duffel bags, unknown contents that could include weapons, medical supplies, food, tools, or more likely valuable merchandise that is now completely useless in the apocalypse. The weapons are the thing I'm most concerned about. We have the food supply from Unit 114, the diesel generator and fuel, the security camera system, which gives us eyes on the whole facility including their section, the master keys to every unit, the intercom, and, critically, the security lockdown override, meaning I control whether any external doors open. They can't leave without us. Or rather, they can try to leave through that side door, but if the lockdown is active, and it is, the side door is on the same lockdown circuit as all the other exterior access points. It doesn't respond to their keys anymore. The only person who can override the lockdown is me. I may not have been thinking about this as a negotiating position, but that's what it is. Day 7. Patrice's voice on the radio is tighter than before. Rod's insulin situation is getting more pressing. He's been rationing it more carefully than he should, she says. And his blood sugar readings on the little meter he has are starting to climb. We have 4 days, she says. Maybe 5. He won't tell me exactly how much he has left. I'm going to get you insulin, I say. How? I have a vehicle. I have a driver. I have a route. I don't mention the armed criminals in Building C. We're doing a run to the Route 9 pharmacy. 2 days to plan it properly. Then we go. A pause. Then, you sound very calm about this. I'm not very calm, but I have a plan. Another pause. The route from your facility to Route 9 goes through a neighborhood that, I can see from the roof here, there's a lot of them on those streets. A lot. I know. We're making a diversion. What kind of diversion? I look at Tyler, who has been listening to this conversation and is now leaning forward. We're going to get very loud somewhere else first, I say. Draw as many of them as we can, away from our route before we go. Patrice is quiet for a moment then. That could actually work. You know what's loud, and would stay loud for a while? A car alarm. If you set off a car alarm somewhere away from your route, we'd need to get to the car first. There are cars parked everywhere. If one of them was old enough to have a remote start alarm you could trigger from a distance. Or, Tyler says, we could park a car somewhere and leave the radio on loud, and then drive away in the other vehicle. I look at him. That's good. He shrugs, trying not to look pleased. The plan. We take both vehicles. Brett drives the pickup. I ride with him. We take the minivan first. Driver unknown. Actually, I'll need a driver for the minivan. Which raises the question of who. We position the minivan 2 blocks west of our intended route, playing the facility's battery-powered radio loud through the window, and leave it running. Then we backtrack, take the pickup east through a cleared path, get to the pharmacy, get insulin and whatever other medical supplies we can grab in 5 minutes, and come back. The minivan stays west as a decoy until we're back inside the gate. But I need a second driver for the minivan, and the only options are Brett, Frank, and Tyler. Brett needs to be in the pickup with me. Tyler is 17, and I'm not putting him outside, which leaves Frank. Frank, who I don't fully trust. Frank, who lied by omission for 5 days. Frank, who is currently my best option. I talk to Frank alone, in the utility room, where the generator is running with its low diesel rumble. I need you to drive a vehicle, I say. I assumed you might. It's a diversion. You park the minivan on Elm Court 2 blocks west, leave the radio loud, walk back through the vehicle gate. You're outside for maybe 3 minutes. He's quiet for a moment. You need me, because I'm the only driver option. Yes. And you're telling me this, which means you've decided to trust me enough. I've decided you're useful enough right now that the risk is acceptable, I say, which is not exactly the same thing as trust, and I think he knows that. He nods. What do I get? I look at him. What do you want? Information. What's the longer plan? Where are we going, ultimately? There are rumors of a survivor settlement to the north, about 30 miles. We're trying to confirm it. If it exists and it's viable, we're going there. In the facility's vehicles. In the moving trucks on the loading dock. 2 of them. Boxed in, protected on the sides, room for supplies. I pause. If we can get out of here, those trucks are what we leave in. Frank thinks about this for a long moment. Holloway's people in Building C, he says. Yeah. They'll want those trucks too. I know. There are 3 of them, at minimum. And he pauses. They're armed, more than armed. Holloway didn't send accountants to protect his merchandise. I know that too. I look at the generator. The diesel level is down to 90 gallons. Still okay. How many are actually in there? You said 3 bunks in Unit 142. 3 people? I don't know how many came back. The first time, before the lockdown, there were 3. I saw them when I arrived in the morning. After that, I stayed away from Building C. Smart. I'm a careful man. He pauses. I also don't know what Dexter Holloway is thinking right now. He may have been in the facility that morning. He comes to check his units personally sometimes. If he was here when the lockdown hit. Is he in there? I say. In Building C? I don't know. Frank. I look at him directly. Is Dexter Holloway in Building C right now? He meets my eyes. I genuinely don't know, he says. But I wouldn't rule it out. The pharmacy run happens on day 8. There is no good time to wait longer than this, given Rod's insulin situation. We plan it in meticulous detail, and then it goes almost exactly as planned, except for 2 things that we didn't plan for, and those 2 things will matter later. The first thing we didn't plan for, the minivan doesn't start. Battery is dead. It's been sitting in the loading dock for a week, and the cold has finished what was already a weak battery. Brett, to his credit, finds jumper cables in his unit in about 4 minutes, and we jump the minivan from the pickup without any discussion. It starts on the 2nd attempt. We lose 15 minutes. This is annoying, but manageable. The second thing. When Frank drives the minivan out through the vehicle gate, and heads west on the service road. He passes within 50 feet of a cluster of infected that neither of us had seen on the cameras because they were on the blind spot side of a parked delivery truck. He later tells me about this without any drama, just, there were about 10 of them I didn't expect. The engine noise turned them toward the minivan immediately. I increased speed. He gets the minivan to Elm Court, leaves it running with the radio loud, Tyler's old portable speaker, connected to the radio handset, pumping out a looping alarm-type tone that Tyler set up specifically for this. And Frank walks back. 2.5 minutes. He comes through the gate and I lock it behind him. By the time Brett and I take the pickup east on the service road, the infected who were at the fence to the north have visibly thinned. They're moving west, toward the sound of the minivan's radio. Not all of them. There are still figures on Wentworth and in the residential streets, but the density has dropped. Brett pulls onto Wentworth heading east, and I watch the infected on foot as we pass them. They turn. They start moving toward the truck, but we're moving faster than they are, and I count seconds as Brett drives. 15, 20, 30, turning right off Wentworth onto a side street that cuts across to the Route 9 commercial strip. The side street has 3 infected on it. Brett drives through without stopping. They reach for the truck as we pass and miss it. Route 9 is busy in the worst way. Cars everywhere. Stopped mid-lane, on curbs, one on its side in a parking lot, smoke drifting from something that had been burning and had burned down, and infected on the sidewalks, in the parking lots, in the road, moving in their aimless way between the stopped cars. A lot of them. The CVS pharmacy is a quarter-mile up on the right side. Brett drives without hesitating. He's good. He navigates around stopped cars, doesn't brake hard or make sudden moves that would create noise, keeps the engine at a steady mid-RPM. The infected around us turn toward the truck's sound. They start following, but they can't follow fast enough. We pull up in front of the CVS. The front windows are broken. Something got through them days ago. I can see the scattered glass and the upturned display racks inside. 3 minutes, I say. Go, Brett says. He keeps the engine running. I go in through the broken window. The store is dim, no power, but enough light comes through the windows to work. I have my flashlight. I go directly to the pharmacy at the back. The gate across the pharmacy counter is down but unlocked. Someone tried to lock it and didn't quite close it. I push through. Insulin refrigerator. The power is out and it's been out, meaning the insulin has been at ambient temperature, which is cold because the store isn't heated. Cold but not frozen. Insulin is viable if it hasn't frozen or gone above 77 degrees. The inside of this building has been cold, maybe 50 to 55 degrees, better than ambient outdoor temperature. I grab every vial of insulin I can reach, every type. I don't know exactly what type Rod needs, so I take them all. Into the bag. Pain medication. Oxycodone. The bottles are labeled, which is not what I'm looking for, but I grab 2 bottles of regular ibuprofen and 2 of acetaminophen. Antibiotics. I look for amoxicillin. Find it. Take several boxes. Blood pressure medication. There are several types. I take 1 box of each. Eye drops, antiseptic, bandages, surgical tape, an automated blood pressure cuff still in its box, a box of nitrile gloves, a blood glucose meter and test strips. I'm done in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. On the way back through the store, I pass the front register area and I grab 3 things. A bag of chips. Absurd, I know, but food is food. A phone charging cable I spot hanging on a display, and a paper road atlas from a rack near the door. The atlas covers the entire state, and I have been navigating by memory and partial camera view for over a week. A proper map suddenly seems enormously valuable. I get back in the truck. Brett drives before the door is closed. Any problems? He says. None inside, outside. Growing. He doesn't elaborate, and he doesn't need to. I can see in the side mirror the trail of infected that have been following the truck's sound from the pharmacy. 5, then 8, then more, coming from parking lots and storefronts. All moving in the same direction, the direction we came from. We need to not go back the way we came. West on Route 9, I say, looking at the atlas I just grabbed. Then south on. I open to the right page. South on Miller Street. That cuts back down to Wentworth. Brett makes the turn. We lose most of the following infected because we turned before they could. We get back onto Wentworth with only 4 infected visible, all on the far side of the road. Brett turns west on Wentworth and drives toward the facility. The infected from the minivan's radio diversion are still clustered around Elm Court when we pass. The radio is still going. They're milling around the minivan, dozens of them. They don't notice us passing because the radio is louder than we are. Through the vehicle gate. Gate closes. I lean against the truck with my eyes closed for about 10 seconds. "Good," Brett says, getting out of the truck. He sounds genuinely pleased, which is the most positive emotion I've seen from him. That was actually good. "Yeah," I say. "Yeah, it was." We reach Patrice over the radio that evening, and I list what we got. Her voice, when I describe the insulin vials, goes flat for a second, and then comes back with something in it I can't quite describe, like a sound someone makes when they've been holding their breath for longer than they thought. "I need to know the types," she says. "Rod uses a specific..." I read out the labels. She makes me read them twice. "Okay," she says. "Yes. The Lantis. Yes. Oh God. Yes, that's it. How do we get it to you?" I say. This is the question I've been thinking about since we got back. We can't easily drive to their location. The hardware store is near the pharmacy, meaning near the dense infected zone on Route 9. It's much more exposed than our pharmacy run was, and we'd have to go much slower through the populated area. And the moving trucks we're planning to eventually use for the convoy are currently stuck behind the loading dock gate, which I haven't opened yet. But the pickup could make a second run. "Give me 2 days," I tell Patrice. "I need to rest, reassess the route, and plan properly." "Can Rod hold for 2 more days with careful rationing?" A pause. Muffled conversation from her end. She's talking to Rod. He says yes. He's not happy about it. He says, "Tell your man not to dawdle." I almost smile. Tell Rod I don't dawdle. I plan. I'll tell him. He'll still complain. We sign off. I sit in the security office with the atlas on my knee and trace possible routes to the hardware store. The pharmacy run was east on Wentworth, north on Route 9 to the pharmacy. The hardware store is further north on Route 9, maybe another third of a mile. Everything north of our pharmacy stop is denser with abandoned vehicles and, based on what Patrice can see from the roof, denser with infected. But there's a back way. Miller Street, which we used on the return trip, connects not just to Wentworth but continues north, running parallel to Route 9 on the west side of the commercial strip. If I can find a way to connect Miller Street to the back of the hardware store's block, I open the atlas, trace the street grid. There's a back road behind the Route 9 commercial strip that runs parallel to it. If we come up from the south on Miller, turn onto the access road behind the commercial strip, we could approach the hardware store from the back, without ever going on Route 9 at all. The back road is likely to have fewer infected, since infected congregate near noise, and there would have been less activity on a service road than on the main commercial strip. I make a note. Then I notice something on the atlas page I'm looking at. North of the Route 9 commercial strip, maybe 12 miles north, there's a marking for a county fairgrounds complex, and next to it, in the margin of the atlas, it was one of those road atlases that have little editorial notes about points of interest. A small text box. Harville County Emergency Management Center, adjacent to Fairgrounds Complex. Emergency Management Center, adjacent to a fairgrounds, which would have buildings, water, possibly power infrastructure. A rumored survivor settlement. 30 miles north, that's what I told Frank. 12 miles north of Route 9 is, I count the map scale, about 15 miles from here, at most. Not 30 miles. 15. I sit with this for a long time. Day 9. Something changes in Building C. The camera in Building C's south section, the one with the partially obscured view of the side entrance, picks up activity in the early morning. Not the single person from before. 4 people. Moving in from the side door, going into Unit C-142, coming out again with a piece of equipment I can't identify from the camera angle. Something on a rolling cart. 4 people. The 3 who'd been there on day 1, plus a 4th. I watch this for 20 minutes, and then I do the thing I should have done on day one. I go to the security office's filing cabinet and look at the building plan for Building C. The building plan shows the full camera layout, including the blind spot I already know about. But it also shows the internal corridors in detail, and I realize something I had half noticed and not acted on. There are 2 internal corridors connecting Building C to the rest of the facility. The North Corridor, which I've been using when I need to access the C section for legitimate reasons. It goes from the North Junction through a passage door into C's north end, and a South Corridor that I thought was a maintenance passage, closed off, I'd assumed, because it's behind a locked door that I'd never had reason to open. I have the master key. I go to the South Passage door and open it quietly. It's not a storage corridor. It's an actual internal service tunnel, about 4 feet wide, running the full length of the south wall. Access panels for plumbing and electrical lines run along the upper part of the tunnel. At the far end, there's another locked door that would open into the south section of Building C. The south section, where units C-140 through C-155 are, where Holloway's people are. I can get to within about 12 feet of those units through this tunnel, without them knowing, without going through any exterior space, and completely invisibly. There are no cameras in the service tunnel, because it was never designed to be a space anyone would use. More importantly, the service tunnel has access panels for the power and lighting systems, including the circuit breakers for the south section of Building C. I can cut power to their section from here. I don't do it yet. I close the door, lock it behind me, and go back to the security office. I sit with this for a while. Day 10. Patrice and Rod are alive, and Rod's blood sugar is stabilizing slightly on his reduced insulin. But she tells me on the morning radio call that they had a bad night. 3 infected got into the hardware store's front section somehow. Through the broken display window, she thinks, probably following some sound from inside. She and Rod spent 4 hours in the back storage room listening to them move around the front. They walked right up to the door, she says. Right up to it. They could hear us breathing, I thought. But they didn't. They didn't try the door. They couldn't figure out the handle. They can't figure anything out, I say. They just go toward sound. We were barely breathing. That's exactly right. Stay quiet when they're close. They'll drift. They did. But, Cal, we need to get out of here. He's not a small man, and he's scared, and he's not going to just get smaller about being scared. We need the insulin, and we need to move. I'm coming the day after tomorrow, I say. 2-day run. We come to you, we get you back here. A pause. Here? To the storage facility? It's safer than where you are. We have food. We have water. We have a generator. And we have a plan to eventually move to a settlement location. But we need more people and more supplies first. Another pause. What kind of settlement location? County Emergency Management Center. About 15 miles north. I found it on a map. It's adjacent to the fairgrounds. The buildings there are solid, and the infrastructure. I know Harville Fairgrounds, she says. I've been to the fair there. It's a big complex. Yes, it's a potential base, if it hasn't already been taken by. I stop. By what? By other people. The kind who might not want to share. I'm thinking about Building C. We're dealing with something like that here, and I'm working through it. How many people are you thinking for the convoy, if we get to the fairgrounds? I count me, Donna, Brett, Tyler, Frank, plus Patrice and Rod, if we can get them here. 7 people. The 2 moving trucks on the loading dock have a combined capacity of easily 20 people, and whatever supplies we can load. We could fit more if we found more survivors along the way. 7 to start, I say. Maybe more if we find them. Day 10 also brings a direct encounter with Building C. I'm in the security office at mid-afternoon when the intercom crackles. Not one of us. Not a voice I recognize. A man's voice, unhurried and not warm. You in the office. I know you're there. You've got cameras, and you've been watching Building C. I want to talk. I sit very still for a moment. Then I pick up the intercom handset. I'm here, I say. You've been avoiding us. You've been avoiding us too. A beat. Fair enough. My name is Dex. I have people here. We've been here from the beginning, and we know you have food and power, and we'd like to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. Dexter Holloway. So he was here from the beginning. I'm listening, I say. We have things you probably want. Supplies, equipment, things that are useful in the current situation that you may not have in your section. We'd like access to your section and your resources in exchange for what we can offer. What specifically do you have? I say. A pause. Things we'd rather discuss in person. I think about this. If I open the corridor doors between our sections, how many people am I letting through? 4, including myself. And they're armed. Yes. And I'd be letting 4 armed strangers into the area where I'm keeping civilians, including a 60-year-old woman and a 17-year-old kid. A longer pause this time. When he speaks again, his voice has an edge it didn't have before, something that's trying to stay reasonable and is finding it slightly difficult. We could also approach this differently. You need the vehicles in the loading dock. You're planning something. I know this because I know how people think when they're trapped in a building with supplies and a ticking clock. You're planning to leave eventually. But the loading dock gates, those are part of your lockdown system, which means you control them. So as long as you're here and alive, those gates open on your schedule. Once you're not, that's a threat. That's an observation. Here's my observation, I say. The exterior lockdown means nobody in this facility can get out through any exterior door or gate without me. Which means you're as trapped as we are, just with more guns. And guns don't open security lockdown gates. Silence on the intercom. We'll talk tomorrow, he says. One of my people and one of yours. Neutral corridor. You pick the time. I look at the camera feeds. Brett is in the manager's office. Donna is asleep on the couch. She sleeps in the afternoons, which is fine. Tyler is in the utility area. Frank is not on any camera I can see. I check 3, 4, 5 cameras. Nothing. Then I check the north corridor camera, and Frank is there, at the junction, standing still, looking at the Building C entrance door. Tomorrow morning, I say into the intercom. 8 a.m., North Corridor Junction. Frank says he'll go. I don't want him to go. But he's the one with the most direct understanding of how Holloway operates, and he's the one Holloway's people already know, and putting Brett in front of armed criminals seems like a faster path to a confrontation that goes badly. I brief Frank on what I want from the conversation. Information about what they have, what they want, and whether they can be worked with or whether they're a straight threat. I want Frank to listen more than he speaks. I want to know if Holloway himself is present or if it's just associates. Frank listens to all of this. Then he says, "You know this won't end with a negotiated agreement. Not with Dex. He doesn't negotiate. He accommodates until he doesn't have to anymore." I know, I say. But I need to know what I'm working with before I decide what to do about it. What are you going to do about it? I think about the service tunnel, the power circuit breakers, the camera coverage I have that they don't know I have. I have some options, I say. I want to see what they show me first. Day 11. The meeting at the North Corridor Junction. Frank and a man I'll call Gordy, because that's what Frank tells me his name is, Gordon, though everyone calls him Gordy. Talk for about 20 minutes, while I watch from the security office camera feed and listen through the intercom mic that I've left open at the North Junction. Gordy is not what I expected. He's young, mid-20s maybe, and he looks tired rather than threatening, with the kind of tired that comes from stress and too little sleep rather than physical exertion. He's wearing dark clothes, and he's got something on his belt under his jacket that I can't identify through the camera. He speaks quietly. What I learned from listening, Holloway is in Building C. He came to the facility on the morning of the outbreak to move some merchandise, got trapped when the lockdown hit, and has been here since. He has 3 associates with him. Gordy, a man named Phil, and a man named Nate. Total. Holloway plus 3. 4 people in Building C. What's in the cases? Merchandise, electronics, watches, things that have no value right now, but also, separately, in Unit C-151 weapons. Specific weapons, plural, that Holloway stored here as part of a separate operation. including things that aren't hunting rifles. He wants the generator, Gordy tells Frank, and he wants the cameras so he can see out, and he wants to be included in whatever you're planning to do when you leave. Frank relays this back to me through the intercom later. He wants everything we have, Frank says. Operationally, he's framing it as partnership. It's not partnership, I say. No, but he's not. Gordy is not someone who wants violence. I've dealt with him before. He's an employee who follows instructions. What about the others, Phil and Nate? Frank thinks. Phil is a handler. Physical work, intimidation. Nate, I don't know. And Holloway himself. Dex is the most dangerous person in this building, Frank says simply. Not because he's the most physically capable, because he makes decisions without hesitation, and he doesn't waste time on being upset about what he has to do. I look at the camera showing the North Corridor junction, where Gordy is now walking back toward Building C. How long do we have before he gets impatient with the talking? A few days. He'll let the conversation go one more round before he decides on another approach. Okay, I look at my notes. I need 3 days to get Patrice and Rod here and to get the convoy ready. 3 days is doable, Frank says. Probably. Day 12. The run to the hardware store. This one is harder than the pharmacy run. The route is longer. The infected density is higher, closer to Route 9, and I'm trying to bring back 2 people in a pickup truck that was already moderately cramped with 2 people. The diversion this time is more elaborate. I've spent 2 days rigging the facility's secondary alarm system, a fire alarm panel in Building A, to a timer, so that when the external alarm sounds, it creates noise at the facility perimeter that will draw infected from the east toward us, rather than toward where we're going. Counterintuitive, I know, but the infected near Route 9 will move toward the loudest consistent sound, and if the loudest consistent sound for a 15-minute window is east of them rather than north of them, they'll drift east. I set the timer for 30 minutes after we leave. That gives us 15 minutes to get to the hardware store, load up Patrice and Rod, and get back before the infected start reorienting. We also bring something different this time. Brett and I have both decided that going outside armed makes more sense than not, and the only ready weapons I know about in our section are a fire axe from the emergency cabinet in Building A and a heavy pry bar from Brett's toolbox. Not great. But I also remember the rifle cases in Unit 114, Gordon Alcott's survival cache, and I make the call that I've been putting off. I take my bolt cutters to the smallest of the 3 cases. Pistol case. Inside, a compact handgun, a Glock of some kind, and 2 full magazines. I know how to work a handgun from a brief period of my 20s, when I went through a phase of weekend shooting ranges. I'm not good with it, but it's something. Brett looks at it without comment. He takes the pry bar. I'm better with something I can swing, he says. We leave at 6 a.m., before full light, because the reduced visibility makes infected slower to react to visual cues. The route: out through the vehicle gate, west to Miller Street, north on Miller, east on the back service road behind the Route 9 commercial strip. I've checked the atlas and the satellite image. The tablet's mapping app has offline maps, and the service road exists and connects where I need it to. Brett drives, I navigate. The back road is better than Route 9 itself, but not empty. There are 5 infected, scattered across the 100-yard service road section behind the hardware store's building. Brett drives through without stopping, pushing the speed enough to outpace them without being reckless. The hardware store has a back delivery entrance. I'd told Patrice which door, and the moment Brett parks and I get out, that door opens and Patrice is there, and behind her is Rod. Patrice is shorter than I expected. I've talked to her voice for a week, but her actual presence is compact and very direct, the way some people are, where their physical size doesn't match the space they take up. She's wearing her coat and a backpack, and she has a hand truck ready with 2 boxes on it. She'd packed. Rod is 71, and he is, there's no gentle way to say this, not in great shape physically. He moves slowly, and he's pale, and he looks like he's been in a building for 12 days, which he has, but his eyes are sharp, and he takes me in with a quick assessment, that I recognize as someone who is very used to evaluating situations. "You're smaller than I imagined," he says. "The voice on the radio, I thought you'd be bigger." "I get that a lot," I say. "Is this all we have time for? Standing around?" "Yes," I say. "Get in the truck." We load the 2 boxes and the hand truck. Patrice squeezes into the back seat of the cab. Rod takes the passenger seat, because getting him into the back would take too long. I stand on the running board and grip the door frame, which is not safe and also the only option that fits all 4 of us. Brett drives back. Rod on the way speaks approximately 8 words: bumpy, faster, left there, and thank you. At the end, the last 2 words very quiet and looking out the windshield. We get through the gate with 6 infected, following us down the service road, drawn by the engine sound. They reach the chain link just as I get it closed. 6 of them pressing against the fence, their faces in the chain link pattern, pressing. The fire alarm at the facility goes off 30 seconds later, and they all turn toward the sound and drift that direction. I look at Brett. He looks at me. Neither of us says anything. 7 people now. Rod needs warmth and rest, and his insulin. And Patrice organizes all of that with efficient practicality, before I've even finished explaining the layout of the manager's office. She gives him the shot from the supplies I brought, gets him settled on the couch with sleeping bags, and then comes to find me with the expression of someone who has been in a waiting room for too long and is ready to actually do something. "Tell me what we're dealing with," she says. I tell her everything: the food supply, the generator, the camera system, the lockdown exterior, Kevin Draper in the Building B corridor, and Building C with Holloway's people. She listens without interrupting. When I finish, she sits with it for about 10 seconds. "The gang is the most dangerous variable," she says. "Yes. What's your leverage?" "The security system, and the fact that I know things about this building that they don't know I know." "Like the service tunnel?" "Yes, and the fact that I can cut power to their section from the tunnel without them knowing how it's being done." She thinks. "If you cut their power, what does that gain you?" "Disruption, confusion. It might make them think the generator is failing, which creates pressure on them to negotiate differently or reveal their intentions." I pause. "Or I could use it as a distraction during a specific operation." She nods slowly. "You're thinking about how to get the moving trucks out of the loading dock without them getting to them first." "Yeah. You'd need to get the trucks from the loading dock to the vehicle gate. The loading dock is on the south side. The vehicle gate is on the east side. That's..." She's thinking about the layout from what I've described. "That's maybe 200 feet through the South Service Road." "The South Service Road runs past Building C's exterior wall," I say. "Which means if Holloway's people are in the building and the south entrance is open, they could intercept the trucks in that 50-foot window. Unless they have other problems at that moment." "Yeah, unless they do." We look at each other. "You have a plan," she says. Not a question. "Half of one," I say. "I need the other half." Donna is the one who gives me the other half, which surprises me. She's been the quietest of the group, the oldest, the one I'd initially, unfairly, thought of as the person who would need protecting, rather than the person who would contribute. I've been revising this since day 1. She's been on monitor watch. She's been maintaining the food log. She's been the one who figured out that the water level in the fire suppression tank could be monitored remotely through the maintenance tap I'd set up in the utility room. She knows the facility better than I realized. She's been coming here for 4 years, and in that time she's paid attention. She comes to me on the evening of day 12 and says, "There's a drainage system." "What?" "Under the facility." I was reading the building specifications I found in the manager's desk. She holds up a folder I'd overlooked. The original construction specs. When this facility was built, there was a drainage system installed for the loading dock, for cleaning the dock, washing vehicles, that kind of thing. There's a storm drain network underneath the south exterior. It runs from the loading dock area south under the service road to a discharge point at the south perimeter fence. I take the folder, read the relevant section. It's a standard commercial drainage system, nothing unusual. But the drainage tunnels are, I check the dimensions, 18 inches in diameter at most, not big enough for a person. That's not big enough to use, I say. Not for a person. But the control line for the loading dock's automated gate motors runs through the drainage conduit. She points to a diagram. The motor control lines go from the loading dock gate mechanisms through the conduit to a secondary control panel in the south exterior utility box. I stare at the diagram. There's a secondary control panel outside the loading dock, on the south exterior wall, for service access, so a technician could operate the gates from outside without going into the building. The loading dock gates. I've been assuming I'd have to operate them from the loading dock interior control panel, which means being inside the dock when they open. But if there's a secondary control panel on the outside south wall, and if that panel is functional and not covered by the lockdown protocol, because it's a service panel that predates the security system installation, then I can operate the loading dock gates from outside the building, which means I can open the dock gates and drive the trucks out without going through the interior of the building at all, without going through the section where Holloway's people would intercept. I look at Donna. How did you find this? She shrugs, a slight movement. I couldn't sleep and I was reading. You just read a construction spec document because you couldn't sleep? I've been managing 3 rental properties since my husband passed, she says. I read construction documents. It's a habit. I have to revise my picture of Donna fairly significantly in this moment. This is very helpful, I say. I thought it might be. She takes her reading glasses off and folds them. I also thought you should know that I heard you talking to Frank in the utility room, about the tunnel, and about the power panel. She meets my eyes. I won't pretend I'm not worried about the people in Building C, but I want you to know that when it's time, I can help. Don't leave me out of it, because I'm 63 and I have heart medication. I won't, I say, and I mean it. Day 13. Second conversation with Holloway's side. This time I take it myself. I tell Frank to stay in the manager's office. I go to the North Corridor junction and use the intercom. Dex, I say, I want to talk. A pause. Then his voice. Good. What do you want to talk about? Terms, I say. For leaving. A longer pause. When are you planning to leave? 3 days. There's a settlement location north of here. 15 miles. Emergency management center at the fairgrounds. I have a map and a route. I have 2 moving trucks and enough fuel to get there. And you want to talk about whether I'm included. I want to talk about what happens when we open those loading dock gates. Because I know you know about the trucks. And I know you have the south entrance door, which is the same corridor the trucks have to drive through to get out. Silence on his end. I've shown him I know his position. Now I wait to see what he does with that. You know, he says finally, you're a maintenance man. Supervisor. A maintenance supervisor who figured out he's sitting on a strategic position and has been playing it carefully for 12 days. I respect that. It's a kind of intelligence. I'm not looking for a compliment. You're looking for a deal. His voice is calm and flat. Here's what I'd offer. Your convoy, your organization. We come along. We bring our equipment. All of it. No questions about what's in the cases. When we get to the settlement, we're equal members. Votes, space, resources. What do you bring besides the cases and the guns? 4 capable men. Vehicles. Supplies you haven't counted. A pause. And the understanding that having armed men between you and whatever's at that settlement is worth something. It might be worth something. It might also get us killed if there are already people at that settlement who see your convoy coming and assume the worst. He doesn't respond to this immediately, which tells me he's thought about it. 2 days, I say. I'll give you an answer in 2 days. The convoy leaves on day 15, regardless. Day 13, late. Tyler finds me in the security office around 10 at night. He's got his phone in his hand, and his expression is the one he makes when he's figured something out. The intercom system, he says. What about it? It broadcasts facility-wide, including Building C. Yes. So Holloway can hear every intercom conversation we have. I already know this. I've been conducting sensitive conversations in the manager's office away from the intercom system, or using written notes passed between rooms. But I nod. What if we used that? Tyler says. I look at him. Used it how? What if we told them something on the intercom that wasn't true? Like, what if we had a conversation about the convoy route that led them to plan around the wrong route? So when they tried to... He stops, reading my expression. Is this too much? No, I say. It's not too much. I think about it. The problem with misinformation on the intercom is that it would have to be subtle enough that Holloway believes it, but specific enough to actually change his planning. He's not stupid. He doesn't know you know he's listening. That's the key thing. He doesn't know the degree to which I've been tracking his movements via the cameras, monitoring his access patterns, listening to his building through the audio pickup I'd wired to the junction speaker near the C-section 2 days ago. A pickup that's been giving me fragments of conversations in Building C. Not enough to get full sentences, but enough to know his people are moving between units regularly, and that there have been raised voices twice, which probably means internal tension. We'll use it, I say, but carefully, and only for one specific thing. I think about what that one thing should be. The loading dock gates. If Holloway believes we're leaving through the north exit, which doesn't exist, but he might not know that in detail, he might position his people at the north end of the facility while we load the trucks from the south. If the south service road is clear of his people during the 30-minute loading window, we can get both trucks moving before he realizes the route was different. I tell Tyler to help me plan the misinformation. We spend an hour working out what to say and exactly when to say it, in a way that sounds like an overheard operational conversation rather than a performance. Tyler, at the end of this, says, Is this like a military thing? Tactical deception? I was a maintenance supervisor, I say. But now I'm a maintenance supervisor figuring things out as he goes. I look at him. You're good at this. The planning, the thinking through angles. He shifts, uncomfortable with the compliment. I like puzzles. Zombies, criminal gangs, insulin runs. It's a weird kind of puzzle. Yeah, he pauses. Cal? Yeah. Do you think my mom is okay? It comes out quieter than anything else he's said in 2 weeks. I sit with this question for a second, not because I don't know how to answer it, but because I want to answer it the right way. I don't know, I say. Honestly, I don't. But she knows you were at the storage facility. She knew you came here sometimes. If she's okay, and she's looking for you, this is where she'd look. She didn't know about the drums. She might have figured it out. He thinks about this. The look on his face is the specific look of a 17-year-old trying not to show how scared he is about something, which is different from the look of someone who's not scared. Okay, he says, after a while. Yeah, I say. Day 14. I go into the service tunnel at 2 in the morning. Everyone else is asleep. The tunnel is narrow, and the access panels for the electrical lines are at shoulder height. I take my tablet with me, and a flashlight, and I spend 40 minutes mapping the power lines for Building C's south section, following them from the main distribution point to the individual circuit breakers that serve units C140 through C155. I've done enough electrical work in 4 years of this job that I can read a distribution panel without too much trouble. The south section runs on 3 circuits: lighting, outlet power, and the HVAC line. I can isolate any of them independently. I can also, if I want to be dramatic about it, kill all 3 at once. I note the positions of the relevant breakers. I practice reaching them in the dark without the flashlight, because the moment I do this for real, I won't want any light visible through the panel gaps. I learn the sequence by touch. Lighting is the top left breaker. Outlet power is the middle right. HVAC is the bottom row, 3rd from the left. I come back through the tunnel. I close the door behind me. I sit in the security office and drink cold water and think about tomorrow. Day 15 is the day we leave. I've told Holloway 2 days from day 13, which is tonight, which means day 15 is tomorrow. I need to load both trucks in the loading dock, drive them through the south service road to the vehicle gate, and get 7 people through that gate and onto the road, all before Holloway figures out what's happening and responds to it. The misinformation on the intercom happens in the morning. Then the diversion, cutting south section power, which will create immediate confusion and force Holloway's people to deal with a problem in their own section. Then the loading dock gates open via the exterior control panel, and Patrice and Brett drive the trucks through the South Service Road and out the vehicle gate. I coordinate from the exterior control panel. Frank, Donna, Tyler, and Rod go through the vehicle gate on foot first, to the two smaller vehicles, the pickup and the minivan, which are already on the service road from being used on previous runs. The convoy, 2 moving trucks and 2 smaller vehicles, 7 people. Enough fuel in the moving trucks, which I've topped up from the generator's diesel supply, taking what we need and leaving the rest. The route: west on the service road to Wentworth, north on Wentworth 3 blocks to Miller Street, north on Miller to Route 9, north on Route 9 to the county road that leads west to the fairgrounds. Total distance, roughly 16 miles, mostly through residential and commercial areas that I don't know the current infected density of. But the atlas shows the route is mostly secondary roads, and I'm hoping the lower commercial activity means lower infected concentration. Hope is the wrong word. I'm estimating, based on limited information, that the secondary roads are better. Educated guess, the best I can do. Day 15 morning, early, 5 a.m., still dark. I'm in the security office one last time, cycling through every camera feed in the building. The facility that I've lived in for the last 2 weeks looks different on camera in the dark and quiet. All the orange roll-up doors, the empty corridors, the one figure of Kevin Draper still standing at the end of Building B's corridor like he's been waiting for something since the beginning. The outside cameras show the fence, the dark road, the shapes of figures moving slowly at the far end of the street, drawn somewhere else tonight by some distant sound. I do the intercom deception at 5:15. I pick up the handset and I have a conversation, out loud in my normal voice, as if I'm talking to Brett, in which I describe the convoy plan. And the convoy plan I describe is the wrong one. North exit, out through the Building A emergency fire door, which doesn't connect to a vehicle-accessible road, but Holloway won't know that from his section. 7 a.m. The trucks will come out through the north end. I set the handset down. I wait. Through the audio pickup near the Building C junction, very faint voices, responding, the sound of movement. Good. At 5:45, everyone is up and in position. Patrice has Rod at the vehicle gate with the minivan, Tyler with them. Donna is with the pickup. Frank is with me at the exterior control panel on the south exterior wall, which I've accessed by going out through a Building A emergency exit, briefly, just long enough to get around the building's south side to the panel, not long enough to accumulate a crowd. The south exterior is quiet. 2 infected visible on the south service road, both on the far side. They haven't noticed us yet, hugging the wall in the dark. At 5:50, I go into the service tunnel one last time. I find the Building C breakers by touch. I trip all 3. Building C's south section loses power. Immediately, through the walls, I can hear reaction. Voices raised, a door, footsteps. Holloway's people dealing with a sudden loss of power. Lights gone, havoc stopped, no outlets working. I give them 90 seconds of this, picturing them orienting toward the problem, away from the south service road, toward their own section's electrical panel, trying to figure out what happened. Then I come back out of the tunnel, and I'm at the exterior control panel. The loading dock gate motors are on the exterior service panel. I put in the maintenance override code. It's in the construction spec folder that Donna found, the installer's code that was never changed, and the gates respond. Gates 1 and 2 start going up. Inside the loading dock, Brett is in the cab of moving truck number 1. He'd been in position for 20 minutes. The moment the gate clears his truck's roof height, he drives forward. The sound of a moving truck's diesel engine is very loud in the quiet of 5:50 a.m. Every infected within a quarter mile immediately turns toward it. Brett clears the dock and turns onto the south service road, moving south. I'm at the panel, getting gate 2 up for Patrice, she was supposed to be at the vehicle gate with Rod, but she's decided she's driving the second truck. She'd made this decision sometime overnight without telling me, and I didn't argue when I found out, because she's right, that she's a better driver than Tyler, or Donna, and Rod needs someone with him in a vehicle, which leaves Tyler to ride with Brett. Patrice's truck clears the dock. 2 moving trucks on the south service road, Engines loud, moving toward the vehicle gate. The infected on the South Service Road, the two I'd seen before, are now moving toward the trucks. They're moving in the wrong direction to reach the trucks before the trucks reach the gate, but they're still in the road. Brett drives through the gap between them without stopping. I watch from the exterior south wall. One of them is close enough to touch the side of the truck, but doesn't do anything productive with that proximity. From the Building C exterior, the south-facing exterior, where the side entrance is, I hear a door. I don't look. I'm at the exterior gate motor panel, getting the vehicle gate open, and I'm focused on that. Gate chain, padlock, swing. The gate is chain link, and it swings outward. I pull it fully open and lock it against the fence post with the bungee hook, so it won't swing back. The two moving trucks come through, and then behind them, from the Building C direction, I hear Holloway's voice. Stop. He's on the South Service Road, maybe 40 feet behind Patrice's truck. He has at least two of his people with him. I can see the outline of something in his hand. The trucks don't stop. They're through the gate. I step through the gate and I pull it closed behind me. Holloway has to choose. Fire at vehicles that are already through the gate and moving away, injuring or killing the people he was going to try to take with him, or don't. He's calculating this in real time, and I can see him calculating it from 40 feet, because some calculations take a visible physical moment even for decisive people. He doesn't fire. You're leaving us, he says. It's not quite an accusation, more like a statement he's checking. I'm leaving, I say. I told you. The convoy leaves on day 15. You could have joined the convoy on terms we agreed on. You tried a different approach and it didn't work. He looks at me through the chain link. The infected are coming down the service road behind him, moving toward the truck sounds. 3 of them. More coming from the perimeter. The gate, Gordy says from behind Holloway. Gordy, who Frank said was an employee who didn't want violence. He's looking at the infected coming. Dex. Holloway looks at the infected. He looks at me. Open the gate. No, I say. Those things are going to walk right past you if you stay still and quiet. You know this. The facility has food, generator power, and a solid perimeter. You can maintain it. Or you can run and find your own way, and maybe you make it. I look at him. But I'm done being a resource for you to take, and I'm not letting you into a convoy of people I'm responsible for. He stares at me. The infected have reached his position, moving past. 1 on each side of him, not close enough to trigger a bite. He stayed still. They move past him like water around a stone. He looks at me one more time. His face does something I can't read entirely. Not rage, not agreement. Something in between that maybe has a bit of both in it. I turn and I walk away from the gate. The convoy. 7 people. 4 vehicles. Me in the pickup at the front, alone. Radio on the seat, tuned to CB channel for Patrice, who's in moving truck 1. Brett in truck 2. Tyler and Donna in the minivan with Rod. 5:47 in the morning, October's gray light beginning to show at the edge of the sky in the east. A cold that gets at your hands where you grip the wheel. Wentworth Road North. 4 infected on the road in the first block, turning toward the convoy sound. I drive past them, not stopping. The infected come from both sides in 1s and 2s, drawn by the engine noise of the convoy behind me. I check the rear view. They're filling in behind the last vehicle but not reaching it. Keep moving, I say on the radio. Don't stop. I hear you, Patrice says. Truck 1 is steady. Truck 2, Brett says. All good. Miller Street North. The residential neighborhood on both sides. Houses with dark windows. Cars in driveways. A dog somewhere, barking. Not visible. Just the sound. Somewhere in a house or a yard. A dog that had survived somehow. And the sound of it is weirdly reassuring. A normal animal sound in the middle of everything that isn't normal. Dog, Tyler says on the radio, meaning he heard it too. Yeah, I say. Route 9 North is the most exposed part of the drive. The commercial strip, the abandoned cars, the infected clustering around vehicle-shaped shadows. In the full convoy, 4 sets of engines making noise. The infected converge from multiple directions simultaneously. And for about 3 minutes of driving through the Route 9 commercial strip, it feels like everything is closing in. They're on both sides of the road, and some of them are between stopped cars in narrow gaps. And I'm driving through these gaps at a speed where stopping would be very bad, but going too fast over the debris in the road would damage the trucks. "Slow and steady," I say on the radio. "Don't rush it." "There are a lot of them here," Patrice says. Her voice is controlled but tight. "I know. Keep going. Don't stop." 2 minutes later, the Route 9 commercial strip is behind us. The road opens up north of it. Fewer businesses, more space, and the infected thin out as we go further from the dense areas. My hands relax slightly on the wheel, just slightly. The county road west from Route 9 to the fairgrounds is almost clear. We pass 2 infected in a stretch of 2 miles. Both turn toward the convoy sound, and both are moving away from us by the time they're in the rearview mirror. The fairgrounds, the main entrance comes into view at the top of a small rise. The gate is open. Inside the gate, the fairgrounds complex is visible. Large exhibition buildings, a parking lot, several smaller structures, and there are lights. Not many, but some. Electric lights, steady, not flickering. Power. Someone has power running. And there are people at the gate. 3 of them, visible at the entrance, watching the convoy come up the road. I key the radio. "People at the gate, don't stop, don't speed up, nice and easy." I drive the pickup to the gate, stop, roll down the window. One of the 3 people at the gate, a man, 30s, wearing a reflective vest over a heavy jacket, walks to the window. He looks at me, and then past me at the convoy. "You found us," he says. "We found you," I say. "How many?" 7. We have an elderly man who needs medical attention. We have food. We have diesel fuel. I pause. We're not a threat. He looks at me for a moment. Then he looks at the 2 trucks behind me, and the minivan. He looks back at me. "There's a lot of you," he says. 7, I repeat. "No, I mean..." He shakes his head slowly. "We've had singles come in. Pairs. Once. Never 4 vehicles." He steps back and signals to the other 2 at the gate, and they pull the gate open wider. "Come in," he says. "We'll sort it out." I pull through. The pickup rolls onto the fairgrounds pavement, which is cracked and weedy in the long-neglected way of places that only get used a few weeks a year. I watch in the mirror as the 2 moving trucks and the minivan follow through the gate, and the gate people close it behind the last vehicle. I pull up near one of the large exhibition buildings and stop. I sit in the parked truck for a moment with the engine off. The quiet is different here. Not the dead quiet of the storage facility. This has the sound of wind in the trees around the fairgrounds perimeter, and the distant sound of a generator somewhere in the complex. And birds. There are birds. Ordinary birds going about their ordinary business in the cold October morning, which seems like something that shouldn't be possible and is. My door opens. Tyler is standing there, having gotten out of the minivan and come over. "We made it," he says. I look at him, 17 years old, messy hair, the hoodie with the band name on it that he's been wearing for 15 days, slightly too thin for the cold because he lost some weight in the storage facility. He's got his hands in the hoodie pocket and he's looking at the fairgrounds, and his expression is something I'm not sure I can name. It's not relief exactly. It's more like the face of someone who wasn't fully sure that a thing was real until they were inside it. "Yeah," I say. "Is it good? Like, is this actually a good place?" I look around. The exhibition buildings look structurally sound. The lights mean power, which means organization, which means people who figured something out. There are fences visible around the perimeter. The man with the reflective vest is already on a radio, calling something in. They have communication. They have roles. They have structure. "I think it might be," I say. "What do we do now?" I get out of the truck. I stretch my back, which has been tight for 3 days. I look at the 7 of us, standing in a cluster in the morning light near 2 moving trucks loaded with supplies, and I think about the storage facility, and the 2 weeks inside it, and all the things I figured out in the right order that kept us alive to get here. "Now," I say, "we go find out who's in charge, and we tell them what we know and what we can do, and we make ourselves useful." You're good at that, Tyler says, making yourself useful. It's a maintenance thing, I say. You figure out what's broken and you fix it. Or you figure out what's going to break and you get ahead of it. I start walking toward the exhibition building where the fairgrounds staff are assembling to meet us. Same skill set, different context. Rod is being helped out of the minivan by Patrice, who is saying something to him that I can't hear. Donna is standing with her arms folded against the cold, looking at the fairgrounds with the look of someone taking careful inventory. Brett has the driver's door of truck 2 open, and he's sitting half in and half out, elbows on his knees, watching the gate close behind us with an expression that is more complicated than I expected from him. Frank Delacroix is standing apart from the group, as he has stood apart for most of 15 days. He has his leather bag, which he will probably carry until it falls apart. He watches me, and when I catch his eye, he gives me a small, acknowledging nod, and I give one back. And whatever that means between us, it's the closest we've come to understanding each other. The man at the gate's name is Darren Cole, and he's a county emergency management coordinator who'd been at the fairgrounds complex for an annual emergency preparedness exercise when the outbreak happened, which is the kind of coincidence that sounds improbable until you realize that if you're going to get trapped anywhere at the start of an apocalypse, getting trapped in a place run by an emergency management coordinator is probably the best version of that story. He's been organizing the fairgrounds as a shelter since day 2. They currently have 61 people. They have a working diesel generator. They have medical supplies, limited but organized. They have food, running lower than he'd like, and a plan to start systematic scavenging of the county's warehouse facilities. When I mentioned the regional grocery warehouse 400 yards from the storage facility, the one I'd noted and never had the resources to reach, his eyes do something that mine probably did when I opened Unit 114, a flash of calculation. We haven't been able to reach the warehouse facilities in your area, he says. The road is too congested and we haven't had enough vehicles. I think about the 2 moving trucks in the convoy. Boxed walls, room for cargo. A driver who navigated the Route 9 commercial strip without stopping. We might be able to help with that, I say. Where are you living? He asks. What did you leave behind? I think about the storage facility. The orange roll-up doors. The hum of the evac. Kevin Draper standing in the Building B corridor where I last left him. The security cameras showing the empty facility. All the units and their contents, all the things other people put there for safekeeping. The manager's office with the gray couch and the maintenance log I filled in every day, the last entry dated today, October 37th, or whatever day that math makes it, day 15. A storage facility, I say, store safe on Wentworth, about 15 miles south. What's in it? A lot of other people's things, I say, but useful ones. Darren Cole writes the address down in a notebook. He writes efficiently, the way people do who have been keeping a lot of notes on everything. We'll need to go back, he says, sooner or later. I know. I look south, in the direction we came from, in the direction of Wentworth Road and the storage facility, and the fence with the infected pressing against it, and the security camera feeds scrolling through their cycle. There are still things in there worth having. He nods. He's already moving to the next problem, the next thing on the list, which is who we are and what we know and where we fit in the organizational structure of 68 people trying to stay alive at a fairgrounds in October. I follow him. Behind me, Tyler is talking to one of the fairgrounds people, a woman close to his age, and I hear him say, I have a drum kit actually, but I had to leave it. And then he says something else that I can't hear. And she laughs, an actual laugh, and the sound of it is stranger and more welcome than I have words for. That first night at the fairgrounds, I sleep in an actual cot in one of the exhibition halls that Darren Cole has organized into a bunk room. There are other people around me, more people than I've been near in 15 days, and the sounds they make, breathing, shifting, the occasional cough, are more different from the storage facility's silence than I'd expected. I lie on the cot and I look at the dark ceiling, and I think about the maintenance log in the manager's desk at StoreSafe, the neat daily entries, the level of the generator fuel, The inventory of Unit 114. The camera feeds cycling through their 22 views of the empty corridors in the parking lot and Wentworth Road. I think about the facility's management instinct that had made me do things in the right order. Food first, then water, then power, then security, then communication. And how that instinct had come from 11 years of understanding that a building is a system, and a system has a priority order, and you work from the most critical down. People are also a system. I hadn't known this before 15 days ago, or maybe I'd known it abstractly but not in practice. 5 people in a confined space, each with different strengths and different fears, and different useful knowledge that they'd share if you created conditions where sharing it was safe. Donna's construction spec document, Tyler's radio contact instinct, Brett's driving, Frank's complicated knowledge of the building, Patrice's efficiency, Rod's impatient insistence on reality. People are a building. You figure out what's broken and you fix it. Or you figure out what's going to break and you get ahead of it. I fall asleep thinking about the grocery warehouse and what's in it and how many trips it would take and what route would be cleanest. Not because I can't stop working. I can stop working. I will stop working when there's nothing left to do. It's just that there's always something left to do, and the list is always less terrifying when you're working through it than when you're looking at it all at once from a distance. Epilogue of sorts. Or maybe just a continuation, which is closer to what it actually is. In the 2 weeks after we arrive at Harville Fairgrounds, the convoy from StoreSafe makes 3 runs to the grocery warehouse. The first run, I drive, Brett drives, Patrice drives, is the most difficult because we don't know what we'll find. What we find is a warehouse that has been partially broken into, not by infected, by people, and then abandoned. Whoever broke in left in a hurry and left most of the stock. The non-perishable section is almost entirely intact. Dry goods, canned goods, packaged staples. 3 runs with the moving trucks, taking what we can carry each time, and the fairgrounds food situation stops being critical. Rod's insulin. Darren Cole's medical team has a supply. The pharmacy run we did was not for nothing. The vials we brought add to the reserve. Rod, with his blood sugar stabilizing and actual meals and a warm room, recovers faster than I expected. He tells me at one point, conversationally, that he opened the hardware store in 1987 and that he has been through 3 recessions and 2 floods and now a zombie apocalypse, and that in his experience, the store always needs tidying, no matter what else is happening. I think this is his way of saying he intends to be useful. Donna begins keeping the fairground supply inventory, which had been a partial and poorly organized document before she got to it. Within 4 days, it's the best maintained inventory in the complex, and Darren Cole has incorporated it into his daily planning. Tyler's mother, she's here. She was at the fairgrounds from day 3, brought in with a group from the residential neighborhood north of the storage facility. Tyler finds out through a process of asking around that takes about 2 days, and I watch him when he first sees her, from a distance. And it's the kind of moment that doesn't need describing, because anyone reading this already knows what it looks like. Brett stays close to the convoy operations. He and Patrice develop a working dynamic that I suspect is the closest thing to a military organization that 2 civilians who've never done military work can produce. Efficient, direct, not a lot of surplus conversation. The fairgrounds eventually starts calling them for anything that involves vehicles and dangerous routes, which is most of the important work. Frank Delacroix stays, which I didn't know he would. He asks to speak with me on the 3rd day at the fairgrounds, and tells me that the leather bag contained the accounts, physical records of Meridian Holdings operations across the county, 6 warehouses, 3 distribution points, multiple storage facilities, all of them potentially usable by the settlement. He offers the records as a contribution and gives them to Darren Cole without being asked for anything in return. I ask him once, when we're alone, "Why did you really keep the bag with you?" He's quiet for a moment. "Insurance," he says. "Habit." Another pause. "And because I wanted to be the person who handed it over, not the person it was taken from. There's a difference." I think there is. "Yeah," I say. "Okay. What happened to Holloway and his people at the storage facility?" "I don't know. We haven't gone back." The route back is manageable in theory, and eventually, we'll need to assess what's still usable at StoreSafe. When we do, we'll find what we find. The storage facility itself, I think about it more than I'd expect. The specific quality of the quiet inside it. The camera feeds and the way they showed the whole space like a diagram of itself. The smell of the climate control system, which I now recognize as the specific smell of recirculated air in a sealed space. The orange roll-up doors in their rows. Kevin Draper still standing in Building B's corridor at the last time I saw him on camera, facing whatever direction a sound had sent him, waiting for the next input. The facility is still there, 15 miles south. The generator fuel is probably still running. I did the math. I'd left about 40 gallons, which at the reduced load we'd been running, would give it another 4 or 5 days before it shut down on its own. The camera feeds will have gone dark by now. The corridors are dark and quiet, and full of other people's things. I keep the maintenance log from those 15 days. It's a pocket-sized notebook, spiral-bound, black cover. Daily entries in my handwriting, cramped, slightly illegible. The handwriting of someone writing fast, because there was always something else to do. The last entry, day 15. Everyone out. Gate closed. South section power cut. Building C compromised. Convoy left at 0547. Weather, cold. Clear. It's not a great piece of writing. It's not meant to be. It's a record. And records are what you keep when you want to be honest about what happened, instead of what you wish had happened. This is what happened. The Atlas roadmap, with the route I marked from the storage facility to the fairgrounds. I've left it in the convoy truck's cab, folded to the right page, with the route marked in pencil in case someone needs to go back, or needs to come from that direction in the future. The route is still there on the page, 15 miles. Main roads and secondary roads, and one back service road around a commercial strip. Straightforward if you know the turns and the timing, and when to go slow through the gaps between stopped cars and which way the infected drift in the morning versus the afternoon, which depends on where the noise is, which depends on where the people are, which depends on everything. It's manageable. It's a lot of things. These days, manageable is one of them. On the day we arrived at the fairgrounds, when we were doing the intake process, names, skills, medical conditions, things like that, Darren Cole's assistant asked me what my skill set was. Maintenance, I said. Facility management. I know buildings. She wrote it down. That's useful, she said. Yeah, I said. I know.